What is fucking good, everybody? I see all you early birds up in here. Thank you guys, everybody, for jumping in. I mean, you guys are always here. Mike, Eric, Mindy, Tom, Aurora. You guys know who you are. Oh, can't forget Mr. Sexton. What's up, Chris? Jamie, just everybody. Thank you guys for jumping on. I'm not going to drag this out any longer. You guys already know who's up in the building, but I'm just going to bring him on and let him introduce himself. And here we go.
What is up, guys? For those that don't know, obviously I'm Zach Nava of Nava Reptiles. Happy to fucking be here. Dylan, obviously you've been on my lives that I do with Bradley, Connected by Creatures before, so I was super stoked when you asked me to do this one, man. I've been excited about it literally for the last 2 weeks. So
hell yeah, dude. I had to, man. I wanted to ask you questions when you guys had me on. I'm like, wait, I just got to wait and just ask him to come on because I know, I mean, we've talked before privately. We can just go back and forth. And I thought it was great, man. I love what you're doing. And I really want to highlight that. And, you know, I'm pretty sure everybody, at least right now that's in the chat, knows Zach. But if you guys don't and you're not following him, make sure you guys go out there and give this man a follow. I've already dropped all of his social media in the description below. So it's easy. Just click a link, hit follow, hit subscribe. Freaking awesome content. I will add the Connected by Creatures channel as well, because I did forget to do that as soon as we're off here.
What I'll do is I can actually send you my link tree. It has everything. It's got Connected by Creatures, like my YouTube, my Instagram, the whole thing. It's just
even better. Perfect.
Hell yeah.
So, you know, I got to ask the base questions, man, the simple, you know, nitty gritty stuff, but what got you into reptiles?
Yeah, so man, you know, I've told, I feel like a few different versions of this story, right? And it's not because of trying to like paint a certain picture a certain way, but it's just like you remember things, you know, the more you get asked.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so for me, it was a couple of different things. Like my mom always loved animals. I've loved animals since I was a kid. I think I tell people all the time. My first word was dog. I'm just an animal person. Just it's in my blood. You know, I was that kid. Like one of my earliest memories was like finding a kitten in the bushes and like forcing my mom to let us take it home, even though she was allergic. And I was young. But anyways, as far as the reptile stuff, man, like third grade, our class pet was a ball python. You know,
sweet.
You could get permission from your parents to stay after on Wednesdays, I think was feeding day. And so like, you know, like I got to experience that.
What a cool ass elementary school.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, it's Georgia, you know, so there was a little bit, you know, a little bit more free back then. Like same elementary school that they had this guy come and do a presentation that he had like not only like berms and stuff, but he also had like rattlesnakes, and they like did a presentation in our school gym with some venomous stuff. So yeah, I mean, you know, that was really where I can say for sure it started. We also had a green iguana that we rescued, you know, at the house. That we had for a long time. And so it's just, man, yeah, I mean, literally I wrote a book, but it was like a class project that we did, I think it was second or third grade. And the book was basically whatever you want it to be. And we did mine about like all my animals. And I literally had like this like 16-page book with like pictures and like it was all hand drawn of all of the 16 or whatever different animals that we had at the house. So I mean, I've just been into animals forever, and just reptiles obviously were.
That's awesome, man. I'm assuming like most of us went out catching stuff when you were a kid.
Yep. Yeah. So, you know, upstate New York is where my stepdad's family was from. And a cousin of mine, his dad literally had, you know, sheets of tin out in a field. They lived on like 83 acres.
Yeah.
And there was part of a field that wasn't really used for anything. It was close to the house. And he just had some old, you know, roof tins out there, and say, you know, we'd just go out there. Literally, you could go out there every single day,
that's awesome.
Flip those tins, and just grab as many snakes as you could catch. Like,
that's herb heaven right there.
Yeah, yeah. And then, you know, eventually we'd bring them in the house, scare the grandma and everybody with them, and then we'd, you know, bring them back out, let them go.
You know,
catch them all again the next day. Yeah, just the huge stuff.
I'm not familiar. What's local out there? What kind of stuff are you catching?
In North Carolina, honestly, I haven't done a lot of herping here in North Carolina. Like I said, most of what I did was when I was younger, upstate. I do have some plans to go and actually specifically do some herping trips this year. I think I'm going in July with some friends up to Asheville. Which, you know, it's you know, there's tons of mountains and rivers and creeks and things like that. And so I'm looking forward to that. Just, whatever snakes we can get our hands on, crawdads. I mean, I'd meant anything, literally anything. Like I step out my backyard and I get excited because there's rabbits out there. Just it doesn't matter. I like to be surrounded by nature as much as I can and just enjoy things, man, for what they are. I mean, we get a lot of black rat snakes and just stuff like that. But I'm so close into the city. I mean, that's about the extent of anything fancy to get is like rat snakes and stuff. I
feel it. Most of my favorite spots are at least a couple hours away.
Yeah,
but you got to get out here to the Northwest, man. I'll take you herping. I got some cool spots.
Me, I know,
we'll
man.
Catch hella garters, salamanders, northern alligator lizards, all freaking day long.
Yeah, I'm really amped up. I've been telling people, like, just the last few months, I've just been really inspired to start traveling a lot more. So I literally have I'm running out of money to even travel because I'm trying to plan so many things. I'm like trying to figure it out. I've got some plans to try to make some ends meet on just some flights and some things that I want to take to make sure that I can maximize just my enjoyment of life, man. It's
oh hell yeah, dude, that's what it's about. At the end of the day, if you're not enjoying it, what's the freaking point?
So, exactly.
So stemming from that, I got to ask, what got you into the business or hobby side of it? Was it a hobby first, or did you initially get into it with the aspect of breeding in a business? Or
so it was definitely a hobby first. I mean, I got my first ball python that I owned. My first snake that I owned wasn't until high school. Again, even though my mom was super supportive of all of these animals, and we had a pig, I mean, you name it, we had all kinds of crazy. So we had birds, which birds are way more work and way more of a pain than any snake you could ever keep. The other day.
Birds are horrible.
But my mom just, she just wasn't super comfortable with them as much as I pushed for it as a kid. And my sister, same thing. We all wanted, but it just wasn't going to happen. And so, I got my first ball python by the time, once I was in high school, when I was living with my dad, my stepmom, and they were cool with it, and so it was that was when I really finally got to just own this thing that I kind of put on a pedestal for so long. I'd been waiting and now I finally have it. So that was super exciting. But then, I left, went off to college. I rehomed the snake because it was one of those things, you weren't allowed to have it in basically any apartment or, dorm or anything that I could stay in. So just life happened, so I had to kind of put that on pause. But, so when I did get back into it, initially, I actually, I was just like, I just want a pet. That was all I wanted. And so I got a bearded dragon. Because I was like, man, I've always loved these things. They're super cool. They have so much personality. And all of that was 100% true. And I got a male, same thing. Never really had any intentions of breeding, but I thought about it, So the male I did get from Carolina Classic Dragons here in North Carolina. And dude, they breed some pretty high end stuff. He wasn't some crazy powerhouse male, but I mean, he cost me $500 or $600. He was
that's still a lot to drop on a first time bearded dragon.
But so I think what that reveals a little bit is that even though I knew that it wasn't going to be a business, and that's which again, if it was, I would have bought a female and I would have played a little better. But there was also, again, I'm that guy where there's always that bug in the back of my head. I'm just wired that way, man. I'm wired to be excited about just businesses and just things that you can make money off of that you love, because I think for me that the people that I love to follow along with, or just hear speak or even meet, just people I love to meet in person, are people that are super successful at doing things that they're passionate about. Whether that's people that I meet that are in the music industry, or people that I meet that are in the film industry. I love stuff like that. Or again, just entrepreneurs, other people that have just literally done their own thing and made a living wage off of it. Those are the happiest human beings.
And I mean, doesn't it feel so much better spending money when you're okay, I might drop this couple grand right now, but in about 3 or 4 years, I'm going to make tenfold. So,
it's a no-brainer.
I don't know about you, but I'm always way happier spending that money. Other than the money you drop and you're okay, well, I just spent, $5 grand. I'll never see it again. But still worth it sometimes. But I know where you're coming from.
So the bearded dragon thing, was great. And I was dating a girl at the time who, she had just moved out here from Texas. And so it was kind of we're just kind of getting reestablished, or she was getting reestablished. I was just, doing my thing. Decided that she wanted to get into some snakes. And so we went to, a local show, and I didn't really know much of anything about him. I knew of Brian Barczyk at this point, was following his stuff, loved his channel, still love Brian. and all that. But
Yeah.
she ended up buying a pair of snakes, was sold a pair of snakes by a guy with the whole idea of like, oh, you can breed these things together and make X, Y, and Z and blah, blah. And like, so, you know, that got my gears turning. And then I started like looking into it. And that's when I was like, okay, look, this is actually really fucking cool. You know, and so I kind of, my passion and my just obsession with things, like when I get attached to something, man, it's like, I'm off like a shot. Like I can't sit still with anything I like. I have to like really
go
dive
full
into.
tilt.
So yeah, so I kind of dove in at that point, but I didn't want anything to do with ball pythons necessarily. That's when I ended up buying my first. That's when I bought the dwarf project from Garrett.
Okay.
So that's when I found Garrett's stuff and you know, ended up purchasing that pair, the world's only pair of the only time that ever a pure Solaire was bred to a rennet ghost tiger. And there was only 3 eggs that survived from that clutch. One baby was a normal het for rennet ghost, and that was a male. Yep. The other 2 was a pair, so it was 1.1 of 50% Solaire tigers. Both were 100% het for rennet ghost. Damn. So a shot once you raise them up, a shot at making the world's first ever Solaire dwarf rennet ghosts, let alone also potentially super tigers. So it was a project I was very passionate about and very excited for, and it was just I was in the right place at the right time. Where unfortunately, you know, the tragedy happened with Benedict, where he was killed. Garrett had those animals, and Garrett felt that rather than him, first of all, have to put in all the time and space for the project, but second of all, he felt that it would be the right thing to do, you know, to try to support Ben's family, and sold the animals to me, sold me the project for a very reasonable amount of money, not a small amount of money, but a very reasonable amount of money for what it was, and he actually donated that money. Which, as we all know now, that unfortunately did not turn out to go so well.
Yeah, none of us knew that at the time,
so,
though.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a sour thing, but I don't mind talking about it because it is the reality. You know, it's the world, and so I don't feel the need to shy away from any of that information. I think it's important to the story, and I think it's going to be that much more important to the story when I finally do hatch some visual rennet ghost dwarfs.
And the important part about that too is how the community came together to help one of their own, besides the bullshit that happened afterwards. That's what matters.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Focus on the important part of that, and that is absolutely the important part.
So, you know, obviously I'm looking at everybody in the chat. I know pretty much everybody's familiar kind of with how that project's going, I should say, necessarily. Mm-hmm. But I want to stem, how did that dive into the ball pythons then? Because I really love how, I do want to mention this real quick. I really love how, you know, a lot of people jump in and they get a lot of random, I mean, I hate to say it, but random shit. I did the same thing. You know, I made that mistake. I did a lot of random projects till I really decided to focus down, you know, and of course I still have stuff I keep just as pets, but as far as my breeding, it was random as hell at first. And I know a lot of people make that mistake, but what I've noticed with you is you're very focused on your projects. So, you know, obviously we all kind of joke and we know you as Master Ultramel. Yeah. So I want to know why Ultramel and how the hell did that, you know, how did you go from, you know, the retics to the ball pythons and why Ultramel basically?
Yeah. So Ultramel, I actually almost kind of forgot this in such a way. Like I feel bad because I didn't mention it in a couple of different places where it was asked. And I have mentioned it now numerous times. Gavin from Balls to You actually is 100% the reason I got into Ultramel. Like the first time that he showed one, I was like, that's so fucking orange. Like I had never seen a snake that had that kind of coloration. Yeah. And so I was just, man, and I went to Auburn University, so I like orange anyways, but I've always liked just orange. And again, just seeing it for the first time and recognizing like I've never seen that color on a ball python. And then hearing his passion for the project, just really, it rubbed off on me, man, you know? And so I absolutely credit Gavin with kind of inspiring my passion for it, but and also for inspiring early on the way that I wanted to approach it, right? Yeah. And for those that don't know, kind of Gavin's thoughts, and I don't know if it's still this way. I don't necessarily agree with it this way anymore. Just for this particular project, I think for some projects it's the way to go. But his thought initially was like, you find the best examples of the genes that you want to work into anything, and then this was his kind of general idea behind projects as a whole. Was like, okay, if you love GHI, you find the GHI that looks the best to you. Not saying that there's a standard for the best GHI, but he was just saying the one that you like the most.
Oh yeah,
whatever
for sure.
that is, the one you like the most. And so I decided, very early on, I was like, I want Ultramel. And it's not just because like he loved it and I like the look of it either. For those that don't know, I'm a very analytical person. So I started looking into what I might want to invest in and what project I want to get into. And I just recognized that there was not a lot of other people I'm hearing talking about it. Yep. Nobody else besides Gavin at the time was talking about Ultramel. There was a handful of people that were working with it, including guys like Kabilka and Ozzy, which is a whole nother thing. I checked. I'm like, okay, as far as investments go, and this again, I don't know why I'm wired this way. It's just the way that I took things.
Yeah.
As far as investments go, what do I want to look for? I want to look for animals that aren't being produced at crazy high volume already, where I'm trying to dive into some market and make myself unique in a place, in a space that's very much saturated, right? So I'm like, okay, well, that box is checked right off the rip. I wanted to make sure that are these still do people want them? Because you can have that balance where it's nobody's working with it because nobody wants those.
Yep, exactly.
So you have, so I, I've talked about it before. I did a lot of messing around on Morph Market, just kind of trying to see what was available. And even now, dude, if you go and look, there's so few visual Ultramels for sale. Yeah, it's insane. The market is absorbing all of those animals because there's a ton of people producing them. They're just not ever hitting Morph Market. Yeah, they're sold through, whether it's through messages or whatever. When I post, when I've posted about the 2 clutches that I have in the incubator, I'm getting messages like crazy, hey, let me know when they hatch. Let me know what you're gonna have. Blah blah. That's a crazy pairing. This and the other. And I mean, I'm not talking about just from just anybody, and who cares? I don't care who it is. I mean, as long as I know they're gonna take care of the babies, I'm content to work with just about anyone. But I mean, I had some names of some people that I respect a lot that are working with Ultramel that are reaching out excited about what I'm about to hatch, and that's awesome. It's just it's a very validating thing. And so I just think that for me, it shows that this isn't a compliment to myself. I just think that anybody that is interested in getting into any project of any animal, it doesn't have to be ball pythons, and we'll touch on that too. But I think that as long as you think about it properly, you take emotion out of the equation. And you analyze what it is that you're exactly thinking about spending money on, you're going to be so much happier in the long run, and you're going to be way more excited because you're going to be proven right as long as you think through it. I mean, as long, I'm not saying everything's 100%, but it's kind of hard to fuck up as long as you invest in the right animals.
Oh yeah, and as long as you love them, that's what really matters at the end of the day. Because anything could happen, even if you have the best project ever. Mm-hmm. So I always notice that with people. It's actually something I was going to touch on in one of my vlog style videos. It's kind of like the maintenance that everybody forgets that ends up, causing issues. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's work. And then you're always going to end up hatching babies that you're not 100% sure what to do with, I mean, I've thankfully haven't really experienced that, but I did briefly, I was I had, even as much as I planned, when I hashed out some animals, I was like, man, crap, what am I going to do with a male, a male, trick het Ultramel, and thankfully, the reality is I would have been able to sell it. I know that I would have, but it was just, in that moment, I'm I genuinely don't know. I'm okay, well, I guess I'll have to post on Morph Market or whatever, and I'll figure it out. Yeah. But I just didn't really have a plan for that. So, even I, can tell people, definitely just plan for every angle, assume the absolute worst odds. Assume that if you're going head to head, you're going to get literally all normal
seven normal male pos hets or whatever, and then plan accordingly, because as long as you plan for that, the rest is easy peasy. Right. So yeah.
So do you have any other projects going besides Ultramel? Is literally everything Ultramel?
So basically everything as far as the ball pythons go is all working now towards Ultra Clowns. Okay. And just Ultramel in some capacity. So I have I picked up a Mojave leopard Krypton het Ultramel. So she's a triple het.
Damn.
On top of being Mojave and leopard. Yeah. So that's a yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, Chris, I did. Chris is saying he's pretty sure I did okay with that trick het male. I did. I was able to work out a deal with somebody, and I received a female that was very much worth my while, and I was excited to do it. And it's exciting to see other people be excited about the animals that I made. So yeah, I appreciate
Hey, man,
that.
I love some single gene hets. Nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. And that's what I mean. Like, I don't mean to downplay it. It was just one of those, it was like moments of like, oh crap. Like, I know that this is a great animal, but I haven't identified a customer for it yet. You know,
Yeah.
like it was mostly that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So like I said, yeah, no, by no means was it a problem. And even if it hadn't worked out as well as it did, like I would have been fine. But
No,
I was very excited.
I had those worries,
Chris
man, especially my first few clutches. I'm like, okay, you know, I was already prepared to be selling some or whatever, but I was like, how do I knew about Morph Market and all that, but you always get that anxiety and you're like, you know, what do I do? What do you do?
Yeah,
and then you realize, and you realize
like,
pretty soon they're going to sell.
Plan. I know what I'm going to do. Yeah,
right?
Like, it's just, but there you have those panic moments of like, oh fuck, you know, just when you're in it, it's different, you know.
You still get anxious. Yeah,
especially early on. I'm sure that goes away the more that you do. But you know, it was my first clutch ever, so and you know, I've got two clutches in the incubator. But yeah, my biggest thing is for sure is Ultramel as far as ball pythons. That's really the only project that I'm chasing. And that to me, mostly just, it comes down to, man, I'm not as big obviously as a lot of people. Yeah. And I'm also, I'm not financially, in my opinion, I'm not ready to expand into something else, because the reality is like, let's say somebody handed me $10,000 right now. What I would probably do is I would call up Ozzy or probably Ozzy. Yeah. I'd call Ozzy and I'd be like, listen, I've got 10 grand. What's the most powerful Ultramel, whether it's a female, male, whatever, what's the most powerful thing that you can give me in this project that I'm already working? And I would double down, triple down on what I'm already working with. And that to me makes way more sense, because I'm already fully aware that it's a viable project, you know, and I'm not, it would be what I'm comfortable with. It would be what I'm already known for. So it's not like, you know, if somebody handed me 10 grand and I went and bought just some clown, you know, or whatever, like, sure, that would be great. It wouldn't be a bad thing for my collection, but by no means would it be, I don't think it would have the same return on investment for somebody like me, having the animals that I have. So. Yeah,
especially without having stuff to already work it into. You always have to work it into your collection somehow.
Yeah, you got to see what you're working with right now. What females do you have? If you don't have, you know,
that's how I add everything, man. It has to work into an existing. I want new stuff, but it has to work into an existing project too. Because I'm one of those, I can't stay focused on one project. That's kind of why I like, you know, I love it, and I love how we can have this conversation because you have the one main project. I'm horrible, to be honest. I wish I could do that, but I'm like, I have to have them all. But I've learned it, especially with the balls, it's easy with the berms. You know, I'm pretty close to all of them, at least that we can have in the United States. But with the balls, I've had to learn that focus, you know, and to narrow it down. So that's a great business path, honestly. And because a lot of people can't focus on new projects. And if you think about it, if you had a whole new project, that's half a rack right there, or at least a quarter of a rack. You know,
and that's the other part, right? Is like, you know, right now I have 12 eggs in the incubator. Like, this is full. I have another rack in the hall that just came in yesterday that I just have to assemble. And that's the thing is too, is like, even down to racks that you buy, right? Like, all of it has to be planned. And so like all these racks that I do currently have like adults and babies in, because it takes both size tubs. Well, ultimately all of this is just gonna be baby racks, because I have the ability to do it with that style. So in other words, I'm not spending my money twice with those racks. And that's another thing I see all the time. Just in general, like, people spend their money 2-3 times on things where they're like, oh, well, this is all I can afford right now. Okay, well then don't spend the fucking money. If that's all you can afford right now, and you're wording it that way, where you already know, you've already committed to your mind that I'm going to replace this later, then don't do it. Just wait a little while.
Dude, that's the exact route I went. Because, you know, I started with a lot of melamine racks, melamine cages. It was very soon after I was like, nope, I'm getting PVC enclosures. I want, you know, ARS or Freedom Breeder racks. Happen to get lucky with my stuff, but you know,
and that's not a knock to anybody. It's just in my opinion, that's the way to do it. Because even if those racks only cost you a couple $100, well, if you spent it once on a PVC rack, it's going to last forever. At least you could sell it when you're done. You know, and melamine you might be able to, but you know, they just don't hold up over time. You know, that humidity, they swell, they get wet.
In worst case scenario, it's not your thing. You have to get rid of stuff. Every PVC cage, ARS, or Freedom Breeder, you're going to sell it for the exact same amount of money, pretty much, that you bought it for.
Just because it's available.
I know. I mean, I did that route when all the animal plastics cages would come up locally. I'd buy every single one immediately. If it was a 4-foot T8,
and guess what doesn't pop up anymore?
Nope. I bought all 6 of them
pop
that
up
were
for sale
available
anymore.
in Washington.
Yep. Yeah, because there was 2 that popped up and I missed out on them, and they were big 6 foot with pro heat panels.
Yep.
And the price was insane, and I just didn't have the chance. I didn't have a vehicle to get over there and get them that day, and they were gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like $1,000 for 2 6-foot cages with panels already installed.
Damn.
Already assembled. Like, it was a ridiculous deal.
You got to jump on that stuff, man.
I know, man. Trust me.
That's how I did those actually with the Pro Products heat panel.
Yeah.
I was like, look, I can't make it there till this evening. I will PayPal you the money right now.
Yes.
Because it's like people I see on the freaking pages all the time. I'm like, what are you going to do? Rob me? Come on. I'm just like, I'll pay you, but I will come when I'm free tonight, like blah, 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 because I had to snap them up. I don't want to wait 6 months.
No. I mean, like I said, if I knew then,
I love those guys. Like, don't get me wrong. All the big companies are amazing. But
I tell people all the time, their cages it's the best quality stuff I've ever seen. I mean, just from a manufacturing standpoint, you don't understand how good they are until you go to put one together for the first time. And you're like, oh shit, these are super accurate.
And then you realize why the investment's worth it. Mm-hmm. Every freaking penny, you can clean those things over and over again. They're not going to wear down. I mean, worst case scenario, you mess up a tub, you step on it, you crack it. It's a $15 fix.
Yeah. And it's no different than anyone else that you're gonna have to deal with. So
yeah, exactly. Plus the ease of did you ever have melamine racks at all ever?
I never did. I never did.
I was gonna say the ease of old melamine racks when they get swollen and you're trying to pull those drawers out. Mm-hmm. Biggest pain in your ass ever.
Yeah, and so having never had them, it was just one of those things. I just did it. I did enough research to know that it wasn't worth following through with, and I think that's the biggest thing that I can tell people, man. Just research the hell out of stuff. This information's all out there.
Yeah.
I mean, research until you're blue in the face, until you just are going nuts to just spend some money and then go spend the money. Because I know everybody out there's got money burning a hole in their pocket, but you'll be happy to have held on to it and spent it wisely.
Ain't that the truth? So to wrap it back to the ball pythons, I want to know, and I know this is a hard question because people ask me all the time, but if you had to narrow it down to 1 or 2 favorite clutches this season, what would it be?
Well, thankfully for me, that's pretty simple because I only have 2 clutches in the incubator right now.
Is that it for the year for you?
Probably not. If I'm going to get anything else, it's going to be later in this year though, because I've got a male that I'm raising. I've got some females that are ready for him, so it's going to depend. But it's easy to answer right now, and probably it still would be the same answer, because sweet. They're my 2 het ultramale females that I love, that I've been waiting and raising and waiting to get to go. So the first clutch that I had, first clutch for this year that I had, was my Mojave ultramale male that I got from Kaboka. Was bred to a fire yellow belly spot nose 100% het for ultramale.
Damn.
Yeah. So lots of possibilities in there. Again, visual male, so everything's 100% het. So I can't really lose from that standpoint, whether it's males, females, or otherwise. Like all of that stuff is desirable. Yeah. I've actually had a couple people reach out looking for males specifically because that's what I want from that clutch. Is I want a good breeder male to replace that Mojave
to replace the other male.
Yeah, because I actually want to get Mojave off of my male. I don't want Mojave in the male. Because I'll end up with too much of it. And I don't want to run into a blue eye Lucy problem later on.
Exactly. You always have that issue.
Yeah,
it sucks because I love some of the combos, but then I'm not gonna lie. I don't know about you. I'm not really a fan of bells.
No, I'm not at all. I have no. This is gonna sound wrong. I have no use for a bell. I'm sorry. No. I just don't. It's not.
I'm the same way,
need.
And it's that if I want an all white snake, it's not going to be a ball python for 1, and 2. From a breeding standpoint, it does me no good. And if I have too many of them and I make bells, sure, the money's good. You can sell a bell for what, $400 to $600 all freaking day long.
Yeah,
but
there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. But I just don't want to have to do that. Yeah,
it just doesn't get me excited, and
exactly.
That's really what it comes down to. I mean, just the same. It's for the same reason that I got into ultramales. Not everybody is selling them. Like that's the stuff I want to sell. That's everything I want to sell. I don't want to sell literally like anything that 1,000 other people at the show have. I love the fact that I went to the Arlington ARBC twice now, two shows in a row, and I can count on one hand the number of vendors that had anything that was even het Ultramel. You know how many visual Ultramels there were? I think 0 at both shows. None, not a single.
Nobody wants to sell them
because they're already sold before. You don't have to take them to shows.
No,
the day you have the clutch on the ground, it's the babies are gone.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the expos, but what people have to realize is the stuff you want is not there 90% of the time not at the expo, guys. That's not where you're gonna find it.
Nope. You gotta watch and everybody's social media and understand who's working the projects that you're working. Keep tabs on when they got eggs on the ground, and then make that communication like, hey, I need one of those babies. Like, let me know. Yeah. And then that's how you end up with a holdback, or that's how you end up robbing them of what should have been a holdback.
Exactly.
But because you were so interested, they sold it before they even had time to think about it.
Yep. I did that a couple times.
Mindy, if you're listening, Mindy knows what I'm talking about, because I think they ended up with a couple animals that now I'm like, probably should have kept that. There's a couple females that I'm like, man, I could have totally still used those. So it's all good. But yeah, I feel it, man. There's a few I've let go that I'm like, damn, why did I do that? Yeah. So that's the first clutch I'm obviously super, super stoked on. And then the other one, I'm almost, even though it's less genes, I'm more excited about, because this was a girl I thought was going to go for me last year. Yeah. Same breeding and everything. I hadn't paired her in like, God, 7 months, probably. I think 7 months. Damn. It's been since I paired her. I thought she was going to go. I thought I had seen all the signs. Yeah. She was off food. She was doing everything she needed to do. And then, like, based on her last shed, I was like, this is when she should drop eggs. And then it didn't happen. And it didn't happen for like 3 months after that. So it's like, damn. All right, well, she must have reabsorbed. Yeah. Dude, I come back from Arlington and I'm checking on all the snakes, and I open her tub and she's sitting on 5 eggs. Damn. That's awesome. So like what I missed, like where I screwed up, I don't know, but I'm like, I will take it. Clearly, I must have paired her very early on in her kind of building, you know what I mean? And she probably wasn't building, I'm guessing, for those first, because dude, she locked with that male. I mean, I don't even remember how many times, a ton. Because I wasn't afraid of doing that, because he was only working to like 3 females. Yeah. So, I mean, I was pairing him, pretty regularly, and he was locking. I mean, he's a monster as far as that. But she was showing me what I thought were all the signs. And like I said, I guess she just wasn't ready. But towards the end of them being paired, she must have finally, her body was just like, hey, we're taking all this in. Like, let's go. Let's start building some stuff and like do something with this. And so, yeah, literally like 7 months after when I thought she was going to give me eggs, she finally went. And
hey, so good surprise though,
dude. It was it was the best surprise. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better weekend, to go out to Arlington, spend all that time with so many friends, and be so excited about just the hobby and everything. Come home, and then bam, there's eggs from a girl that like I had been wanting eggs from, and she's a pastel leopard het Ultramel, like bred to that same Mojave Ultramel. So. Nothing bad's going to come from it. All those babies 100% het. Like, dude, if I held back everything from that clutch, I would hopefully
be leopard heavy, because leopard exactly. looks good in pretty much everything.
yeah, that's what I say. Like, any leopard females, I'm sorry, they're probably not going to be for sale. Any spot nose females are probably not going to be for sale. I mean, unless it's just the right number.
I actually wanted to ask you that. How does spot nose and yellow belly interact with Ultramel? I mean, pardon me, I'm not super familiar with Ultramel stuff. I haven't seen it.
I think Justin has done it. But I don't think that I've actually seen him do it with a visual. I could be incorrect on that, but like he had some like Mojave spot nose Ultramel. Yeah. Huh. I'm not. I mean, here's the thing. They're not like Lucy's or anything like that. I mean, there's nothing weird that happens in terms of that goes. But yeah, I'm trying, like I said, I apologize. I'm just trying to remember, because Justin put out a video about that clutch. Yeah. And I just remember that there were some visual spot nose Ultramels in there, but I don't remember if yellow belly was also involved. I'm sure that it probably was, just based on what I know from his collection. Yeah. But I can't remember the specifics.
I might have to go check that out, because spot nose and yellow belly are 2 of my favorite genes personally. So I was excited to hear you say you're getting that into Ultramel.
Mm-hmm.
That's something down the line we might have to talk about, because that'd be
yeah,
a good way
well,
for
and
me.
then, you know, I've got the leopard angle, and then, you know, so the two animals, like I was saying, that I'm super stoked on, that I'm raising up still, is obviously that Mojave leopard krypton. So cryptic, so het cryptic, het clown, het ultra male. That female I'm super stoked on, but also because I picked up a male from Marshall Mendez that's a pastel clown, het ultra male.
Damn.
Yeah, so that, like, that male to that girl, and that male just hit 400 grams. So
Speaking
like,
of Mr. Marshall, also happy birthday. I do have to throw that out there.
Yes.
So everybody in the chat,
happy birthday,
Rich Marshall, happy birthday down there.
Yeah, different Marshall, but yeah, Marshall nonetheless. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
No, yeah, I should have said Marshall Mendez, but Marshall's all.
Oh,
Marshall's
I must not have heard that. I honestly
I didn't. I don't think I said
Marshall.
Mendez. Yeah, I think I just said Marshall.
Well, either way, happy birthday, Marshall. So
yeah, either way, happy birthday, Marshall. And Marshall is also involved in the Ultramel project. He's actually working some Ultramel into lace. So
see, that's why I immediately thought Marshall. I'm like, my bad there.
So, no bad at all. No bad at all. I'm always more than happy to talk about that Marshall. That Marshall is much more dear to my heart and important in my life than Mr. Mendez. No offense, Marshall Mendez. I love that guy too, but Marshall, if it wasn't for Marshall, like, my incubator wouldn't be set up, you know. He helped me with setting up. Yeah, I mean, he helped me with setting my temps and, like, just really dialing in my incubator and just random questions, man. Marshall's a good dude. Was one of those people, like, I was able to.
It's always good to have those guys to, like, help you and be able to ask questions too.
Because I was, like, in, you know, heat of the moment type stuff, like, what do I do? Like, this shit's happening. I don't know what the fuck's going on. You know, he would, like, call me down and be like, dude, it's fine. This is totally normal. You know. So yeah, no, Marshall's a lifesaver for sure.
That's awesome. So back into the retics for a minute.
Yep.
Do you have any other plans with that project, or are you just focusing kind of on that one project?
Yeah. So let's dive down a couple of things on that, right? So again, we talked about it. You know, I had the world's only pair of those animals.
Yep.
So everybody probably knows at this point. I made a video about it. I have not made a follow-up video about it. I'll talk about that too. I lost that male. That male, unfortunately, you know, he was septic. He got some kind of a crazy bad infection. He ended up with septicemia. He had blood in his eye. I mean, he was in rough shape. And it was really hard for me to share that stuff. It was really hard for me to talk about it, because the entire time, even though, like, I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, I knew that I didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
You know, I had just seen him. I mean, I'm not kidding, but you know how people are, man. Like, you say, like, I just looked at this animal 3 days ago or yesterday or the day before, and he didn't have any of these things going on, and overnight it happened. People are like, bullshit, that's not how that works. Yeah. Guess what? It is, because here's what happened. He had fucking cancer. He was eaten up with cancer. Yep. So I found him with an infection. I assumed, man, I must have fucked something up. I must have over-misted his enclosure and, like, got him too wet, and that caused a skin infection, and then that, you know what I mean? But it's like, they don't get. You
always run through in your head, like, what did I do wrong? Yes. You know, that's completely natural. But that's,
as keepers, we blame ourselves immediately. And you have to. I think it's also important that we do take that mentality. Yeah. Of, like, okay, what did I do wrong? You know, don't assume that it's nothing you did wrong. I would much rather people assume they did something wrong and then find out later. Yeah. But yeah. So anyway, so he was septic, and it was around the holidays, so it was hard to get him into a vet. I mean, like, almost every reptile vet was closed, or telling me that it was going to be like, oh, we can get you in January 14th, and I'm like, he'll be dead by then.
Yeah.
So anyways, I was able to find a vet that would squeeze him in. Got him on some antibiotics. He didn't respond to the antibiotics. But the antibiotics kept him going, and he was still eating. He wasn't eating much, and he wouldn't eat large meals, which was also weird, right? I'm like, this is an animal that normally eats, you know, he'll eat a large rat any day of the week.
Yeah, no problem.
He's now eating weans because they're so small that he doesn't have to open his mouth. Yeah. So the thing was, he had also developed a pocket of infection in his mouth, or what we assumed was infection.
Like an abscess, or
an abscess. So what I now know, so again, same thing. I was like, well, did I miss it that he had a tooth hung up, and that's what caused infection, and now he's septic, and I just didn't see it the whole time, like kicking myself. No, it was a tumor. He had a tumor on his face. That's why he had it, and that's why it wasn't responding to infection or antibiotics or any of that. But took him to a second vet. We had all the blood work done for all of the communicable diseases, you know, all the stuff that we have to really be paranoid about.
Yep.
He had his blood work sent off to Florida State University. I paid a gob of money to them to run him for fucking everything. Like, tell me that my collection is safe. Tell me that, that everything is good and that he just got sick. And yes, I'm going to lose him, but tell me that I don't have to put the rest of these animals down.
Yeah.
That was the case. He came back negative for everything that, as in terms of any kind of like virus, Nido or any of those things that everybody probably automatically thinks in their head. And so ultimately, the vet and I, the second vet, who again is considered to be the number one vet in the state of North Carolina, outside of taking him to NC State. But she and that vet are like she trained
work
under him.
together.
Exactly. They work together. Like he was her mentor. Like she's the chick to take this snake to, who's still was over an hour away.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of like true exotic vets are like that. They work with each other versus a lot of other independent, normal vets, as we would say.
Yeah. And so ultimately we did make the decision after a long enough period of time. I spoke with Garrett about it a ton because, just again, having, him having the experience with these animals.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're better off to talk to somebody that's just a keeper, that's been keeping for 30 or some odd years than you are to a vet. They can sometimes give you a better direction. But anyways, talked to Garrett about it, and all of us came to the same conclusion that it was best to go ahead and put him down.
Yeah. It wasn't worth his suffering.
No, because he was just not doing well. He hated my guts. I mean, every time I went to get him out to give him shots, because that's the other thing. I was having to give this animal injections every 3 days, I think it was. And so I'm having to fight him to get him out of his cage. I'm having to watch him try to piss all over the place. And I'm also having to clean behind him for all this stuff because I'm like way overly paranoid about any kind of contact with any sort of bodily fluids. Not that, because again, we'd already ruled everything out, but I'm still like, maybe there's something we missed. I don't want any of this stuff to spread. So I was quarantining the best I could. I mean, it's just, dude, it was the longest.
Like, for anybody out there who doesn't know, injecting a large snake is not easy. It's nothing like injecting your ball python for an RI. This is a lot of work and takes multiple people most of the time. So yeah. With
him, thankfully, he was he was still of a reasonable size in terms of length, to where it was safe for me to do on my own. But it was one of those things where I would like step out of my room, like, hey dad, like I'm letting you know, I'm giving the snake the injection. Like if I scream, like I'm going to need some assistance, and it would, and a lot of times it would take me a good like 30 minutes just to even get him out without taking a nasty bite. Yeah. And again, just that paranoia of like not knowing exactly what he's got going on with his blood, within his urine, within things like that. I was trying to be overly cautious. Yeah. And on top of that, just not trying to stress the animal out, overly stress the animal that's already kind of in a bad way. But long story short, took him to the vet. He and I shared a moment where it was like this snake that had wanted to kill me for like the last number of weeks, because every time I touched him, he knew I was going to jab him with a needle. Yeah. Dude, it was weird. Eerily strange. He calmed right the fuck down. Like I got him out of the back and I was holding him. He was cruising my shoulders. Like it was like he wasn't even sick. I mean, it was like a switch flip. Like he was just totally calm.
Weird.
And even the vet was like she stood back. She's like, "Are you sure you're good?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Trust me, like I know this animal," because same thing. He had been trying to bite her every time she treated him. Yep. She's like, "You're sure you're fine?"
As a keeper, you learn their body language.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was like letting him like rub on my face and stuff, And she's like, "You're sure that's okay?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm positive." I'm like, I'm watching him. Like I watched him flip the switch in his head that went from like alert and anxious to just calm. Yep. And that was the last moment that I got to share with him. And that meant a whole lot, man. And I'm a big believer in just energy and just like, I don't know, man. I think there's just more power in the world than just what we can understand in our brains, right? Yeah. And there was something about just that moment that we shared. It was almost like, again, just like he kind of was like, "Yeah, man, like I'm ready to go. Like I don't want to do this anymore." And so she called me the next day after the necropsy, and her first words were, "Zach, you did the right thing." She goes, "Zach," she said, "I opened his lungs up." She said, "I don't know how that snake was breathing, let alone was eating anything." She said his lungs were filled to the brim. She said, "You couldn't fit anything else in there." Filled the brim with tumors. He had a tumor around his heart and he had a tumor around his kidneys. This was an animal that wasn't even 3 years old. But so that is the very long version of what happened with that project and what happened with that male. Now, the upside is obviously, you guys know I'm real close with Garrett. Thankfully, he's a great guy. He's a good friend. And prior to all of this even happening, he had actually sent me back from his facility with a pure Tombolongan male that belongs to him. And it wasn't sent with me on any kind of a breeding loan type of thing. He was just like, dude, he's like, like we're friends. Like, I know you. He's like, you're doing a lot of stuff on social media. He's like, I love this animal. Like, I helped him pick it out. It's his holdback. I picked it out of his rack with him at like 10 o'clock at night after dinner. Like, this is the best of the pure Tombolongans. And the next day on my way leaving, he's like, oh, by the way, you're taking that with you. Like, that's your snake. Like just take it and raise it, and we'll figure something out to do with it.
Damn.
And I was like, okay, awesome. And so when this happened, where my male died, the plan now is we're going to actually breed that pure Tombolongan male to that female. Okay. So the beauty of that is that we've got, Tombolongans and Slayers are both Saputrii in terms of like their classification in the retic world. And they have this crazy yellow that they're known for. Like, dude, if I get this Tombolongan out right now, he's so yellow.
Yeah, if you don't mind, man, I would love to see him.
He's super hungry, so he's trying to bite me right now. But Slayer is the same way. They're really, really, really yellow. Speak of the devil. But I don't know if you can see just how yellow that is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he's just super yellow. It's like the first time he bit me. It was 100% just a food bite.
Uh-oh.
No, you're
all good.
It's literally like it's so tiny. It's not even bleeding. Like,
he's still a baby.
Away. Well, he's about a year old now. So I mean, he's still pretty small, and he's definitely very food german. But anyways, I mean, just very yellow animals. Yeah. And the again, Slayers are the same way. They just have this crazy yellow color and this wild pattern. So I think ultimately the project is going to be better off for it. It's definitely going to take a little longer to reach visual rennet ghosts with it. Yeah. But I think that the benefits of those localities mixed together, I think is going to be a pretty amazing thing to see.
No, that's awesome. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but those are both really small super dwarf localities, correct? Mm-mm. No?
So Slayer is actually considered to be the largest of the dwarf localities.
Okay.
So Garrett has a pure Slayer female, which is not the female that actually is the mother of mine. Yeah. But he's got a pure Slayer female. She's probably around 12 to 13 foot. Okay. My 50% Slayer girl, again, 50% Slayer. She's visual tiger, rennet ghost. She's probably about pushing 9.5 feet right now, I would say. Okay. She's maybe about as big around as a softball though, so she's super athletic for that length.
Good size.
Yeah, good size, but like manageable. I don't ever fear kind of taking her out on my own. Yeah. I mean, and she's a puppy dog, but yeah, she's a sweet girl. She's my favorite snake that I own right now. Nice. And so Slayers, they can definitely get some size on them. But it's as with anything, it depends on the example. It depends on if you want to feed it every 4 days, like you should do when they get older and things like that. But
are the Tombolongans about the same?
So Tombolongans are not. Tombolongan's an interesting locality because in the Europe, from what I understand, it's considered a super dwarf locality. Okay. Over here, we consider them dwarves. So it's one of those. They're like that in between. But again, I think for anyone, like a Tombolongan, even a pure Tombolongan would be like an ideal size. Like they might get 8 foot, like for a female. They might push 9 foot. But again, same thing. Like a snake that a person can handle on their own by themselves. Yep. Super reasonable size. You're talking not a 20-foot retic.
Yeah, that's super manageable.
Yeah, Slayers I think kind of push that envelope, especially if you're talking females, because again, you could end up with like a 13, 14 foot female that's got some pretty good size to her, which again to me is still, I think 13, 14 foot is like perfect. Like I think it's big enough to where like I appreciate that size, but it's not like a 20-foot snake. I mean, because that's the thing. Like people, I think lump them in the same way. Like, do you know how much smaller like 7 feet worth of snake body is? Like, that's way easier to deal with. Yeah. Way easier to deal with. So, what I consider to be reasonable size is not what everybody considers reasonable. But the babies from those two, man, I think that between the color and pattern that you're going to get from just the locality influence. Yeah. And then you add into that the fact that all of them are going to be Posset Rennet Ghost. And then we've got the potential to throw some tigers in there. Like, man, I think that a 50% Tombolongan, 25% Slayer tiger by itself, I think is going to be super, super impressive.
Oh, heck yeah. And bring those colors out even more. Yeah. And what do you think? So do you think those guys will average? I know it's obviously hard to say. And I do know that it mainly depends on the female size, right? Or at least more so. But
that's kind of the theory. Yeah.
So would you say you think they'd average around like 9 to 10 foot then probably?
Mhm.
Okay, that's
what I'm thinking.
That's a super manageable snake. I mean,
I think so.
I like to work with the big stuff, but I think 8 to 10 feet is like that's manageable for pretty much anybody.
Basically,
if they want to get into something bigger, but they're not really either physically prepared or mentally, for that matter, or financially to have a huge, animal, I think that's a perfect size.
Yeah, well, you got to talk about enclosure size too, because that's another important factor for sure. The housing requirements for a 6 foot snake versus, a 13 or 14 foot snake. And then just even like the just general care, like that girl, she's, even if I had her in an 8 foot cage, like it should still really be a thing in my mind of like, hey, I need to take her outside as often as I can.
Yeah.
If for no other reason than just to give her that ability to just like cruise, man. Like these animals love to move around.
That's one thing I've loved about you from the get-go when I first, saw your stuff, is that I've been preaching forever for people to exercise your fucking snakes. And I'd barely ever see anybody doing it. I'll see pictures of them holding them, but that's about it. That's all I see, Yeah. But you truly do let your big snakes exercise that, and I respect the hell out of that, because you just don't see it, man. And it breaks my heart, honestly.
And I wish I could do it more. I tell people, like my living situation right now is kind of complicated because there's like a couple of dogs that live in this house, or my sisters, and we've got a cat, and it's just weird. Like, but ideally, like I would love to be in a position like Blake Stewart, where it's just like, not necessarily having a room built. I think that I definitely don't want that to be the standard that people think they have to adhere to. But I think that if you can at least a couple times a week, just like, hey, everybody, like, hey, we're keeping the dogs inside. Like, we're keeping the kids inside. Like, I want to take the retics out for about an hour. I give everybody a heads up, and I do. And dude, I will take. I took that big girl out last week, and it's so much fun. I get so much enjoyment from watching her her just like. Because I'll take her out there, and at first she doesn't really want to get off of me because obviously I'm the high point in the middle of the yard, right?
Yeah.
But I'll kind of like give her the option to like get down on the grass. Eventually she'll kind of get used to it. And she's that size too. Because this is another thing people don't talk about. I worry about it with my small snakes. I won't do this with my male. Like I won't set him in the grass because dude, we have like owls and hawks and shit. Yeah. And I'm like, even him at like 4.5, 5 foot, like
that's still hawk food.
That's you're talking black snake size. Like he'll get carried off in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So with her, I'll set her down like at the front of our yard, and we have a pretty long front yard, and you're talking probably 200 foot from here to the road. And so I will literally just like walk with her and let her cruise. And there's sometimes I got to like get up to a jogging pace to keep up with her, to make sure that I kind of can, if I need to grab her, I can.
Yep.
But she cruises, man. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, that's no different than like me going out for a stroll, or literally just like me exercising as a person. Like I'm going to feel so much better after I go and just jog, even if it's for just a block, just jog a little bit and get my heart going, and for me to not spend 30 minutes or an hour to do that for her, dude, like what, you know what I mean? And then also like same thing. Also, she's getting out in the sun. She can see the sun. Like imagine, okay, I'm not saying that retics need UV, but can you imagine taking any living thing that light doesn't hurt? In other words, I'm not doing a detriment by exposing her to UV. Can you imagine any animal that you're telling me is not hurt by UV, and you're telling me that you're going to let it spend its entire life having never experienced the sun? Exactly. Give me a fucking break. Like
I don't care if it's an hour a week, and I get it. Like here, I can't obviously 6 months of the year I can't take shit outside.
It's not even feasible.
It's too cold.
But so you have to do what you can when you can, though.
Yeah. No, that's one of my favorite things too during the summer, man. And you see that thinking in them, and you see that interaction, and just I don't know, I love it, man. And so I respect that about you, that you actually live by that and take them outside. And what people don't think about too is, you have to think body weight, muscle tone, and their internal organs. Not only are you helping them get enrichment, but you're literally helping their overall health and longevity of life. It's helping everything.
It's like if I spent my life sitting in this chair, my spine would be affected. My organs would settle into different weird positions. And
you'll probably end up on 600-pound me.
Yeah. Think about anytime you've ever spent sitting in a chair for long periods of time. Eventually, all you want to do is just get up and stretch and move and twist and this, that, and the other. And so it's the same thing. We can't just confine these animals based on some industry standard that we think was set. Like that cage is way too small for her. And I hope that people are thinking that in their minds. I hope that somebody's like, well, Zach's saying all this shit and he's got that snake in this way too small of a cage. You're right. It's way too fucking small.
Yep.
That's why I'm trying to come up with $1,000 to buy her a fucking 6-foot cage that's like 3 foot tall.
Yep.
You know,
but what people also have to think about too is their cages aren't a prison. Let them out. It's like your bedroom.
Exactly. This is where she spends her time when she just wants to be warm.
That's her bedroom.
Let the fuck alone. It's her bedroom. And as often as possible, even if it's literally in this room of me just pulling her out when I come home from work and letting her hang out on my shoulders and cruise around and look and taste and do whatever and think for a little while. Yeah. I feel like that's way better than what a lot of people think the standard is or whatever. You know?
Exactly.
So there's layers to that and that's why social media kind of sucks sometimes, man, because people just get these standards set in their head of like, this is what you do. And it's like, well, but there's some flexibility and everybody can do their own thing and make their own routine as long as we're all on the same page about what they need.
Yep. And you don't have to have a huge room. Simple. Although I will say I am jealous of Blake's room and I totally want a room like that. Yeah. I already told Amanda when we move, I'm building a snake room. It doesn't have to be huge, but I want something just like, if it's like a 12-foot long room or, you know, hopefully like a 16-foot long, just so they can fully be perfectly straight, you know, and then maybe 8 feet deep. And then I just want to do like a fake tree, maybe some rope stuff, big rock, but just, you know, something easy to clean. Maybe
Blake's room is super simple. Yeah, it's super simple. Like in terms of the room, like the drywall's not even painted, you know, and all that stuff that's in there is literally just like directions. It's all like pieces that you buy off of for like playgrounds or whatever. You know, like all that stuff is just like playground equipment or whatever that's like screwed in the walls and like raw plywood. And like it's nothing fancy outside of the fact that, again, yes, he spent a lot of money on building that room. But if for example, if you only have 2 kids and you can potentially afford to buy a like 4-bedroom house instead of a 3-bedroom house, and you can convert a bedroom and just have some hardwood floors in there, you can do the same thing. Like it doesn't have to be as complicated as what he did, you know?
Exactly.
And you can, and again, also his snakes don't live in there. He rotates them in and out. You know, I mean, it's so much easier than what people think. And on top of that,
100% do that, dude. Just take one big snake a day and just rotate them out. You know, obviously they go in their cage at night or whatever to get locked up. But when you're working with them through the day, I totally do that every day. Go in the morning, put them in there.
He will leave a female in there overnight. Like it's a secured room. It was built for that purpose. So he will literally, he'll put sometimes 2 snakes in there overnight. Normally, always a male and a female, or 2 females, but he'll never put 2 males. I mean, for obvious reasons. Yeah. But same thing. Like, here's the thing. So, and I'll say this because it's easy for people to understand. And I don't think I really have to preface this because I feel like everybody that's ever going to watch this is going to know. But like when I walk my dog, it makes me happy to watch her. I love to watch her sniff things. I love to watch her get excited about some new smell or some new trail that she found or some stick or whatever. It's the same thing with these snakes, dude. Blake and I literally hung out in that room for 2-3 hours, and all we were doing was just watching the snakes, just literally standing and talking with each other and just watching these snakes move around. Yeah. Like it's just a surreal experience. And so like you can't put a value on that. You just can't.
No. It's awesome, dude. I love it. Especially I'll pull the berms out and they'll do, you know, what we call periscoping. Yeah, I don't know why, but it's my favorite fucking thing. I just love it.
There's something impressive about it. You know, there's something impressive, and there's also something that's like, it tells you, like, yeah, see, they really are curious. They really are thinking. Like they're trying to get their scent, you know, the scent from the right part of the air and really understand what's going on around them.
And I don't know about you, but you ever like, you know, you have to give them a personality, right? Even if it's just like in your head, you're like, I feel like this one would be like Denzel Washington, and he's like looking around.
No, it's the facts, man. They all act a little bit different. You know, I mean, my male pure super dwarf that I have, like, you know, he's totally different, and even sex is obviously, you know, is a totally different thing. Like he's super reactive to me and like bucks me off because he's like, you're a guy and I know you're just trying to fucking kill me and blah blah. Like I really do believe in that because I've seen it with Garrett.
Yeah, I hate when people actually try to deny that. Like that video I put out, the retics versus. I got so many people messaging me like, "How could you say that?" Blah blah blah. Because I've lived it, guys.
Yep.
Like, you know,
Right.
I never said it was anybody else. I said this is my opinion, and so I'm happy you're actually saying that because people never, you know, they don't think about it. They just have that one track mind, like, oh, defend the species. No, be honest about the species.
Yeah.
Males are jerks.
Well,
like
be open,
half
be
the
open,
time.
just be open to observation. I said this recently on a podcast. I think it was on Connected by Creatures, but like I've known some people that their opinion on, and mostly it was in regards to politics, but they're just like, you can't take the middle ground on things and then tell me that you actually care, because all you're doing by taking the middle ground is just trying not to commit to anything because you don't want to be called out as being wrong and blah blah. I'm like, well, yeah, that's kind of the point. Is by taking the middle ground, you understand that both sides have their validity. Yeah, and you also are wide open to influence from not only both sides but from everyone. I'm always open to influence. Like, please tell me that there's something that I'm doing wrong that I can improve on. I want to hear about it. And I don't want to get so set into this is the way that it's done that I'm deaf to any of that input. And I think that is a tremendous problem in this hobby, as with many hobbies. It's not just the reptile hobby. I hate to generalize because it's really not just this hobby.
Yeah, no,
anything that people have a passion around, any kind of hobby. People all of a sudden develop these cookie cutter rules. And man, the second that you decide that you think you know how something is 100% for a fact supposed to be done, you immediately cut yourself off from ever getting any better at that thing. And I refuse 100%. And I take that approach to everything in my life. I'm very non-committal to my beliefs in a lot of things, man. And that rubs a lot of people the wrong way because they're like, well, if you don't stand for anything, I'm like, well, I do. I definitely stand for a lot of things. And there's definitely some things that you might find with me that are like some shit that I'm not going to give any ground on. Yeah. But they're pretty few and far between because for the most part, most of what we experience in life, whether it's these animals or anything, dude, nothing's that fucking serious. Like nothing is that black and white.
So I learned this growing up and it stuck with me my whole life. And it goes exactly with what you're saying. I think people need to look at it this way. Mines are like parachutes. They only work when they're open. Yes. As easy as that sounds, it is the most true thing. It's stuck with me since I was a kid.
There's a lot of depth to that, man. And even that as an example, it's funny how sometimes the most simple statement is like, oh, fuck. And it makes you just rethink. And it keeps you grounded and it keeps you aware. It's just important, you know, it's just important. Never having another drink, Marshall.
They're doing the Ultramel game, I think.
Hey, that's fine if they want to if they're feeling dangerous. I mean, all I know is that this only holds 2.5 beers.
I think Chris said he was over it and just chugged the whole thing. So I got to ask, with that said, do you have any hobbies outside of reptiles that you like?
I love cars. I've always loved cars. For as long as I can remember, I love cars. I love motorcycles. All right. Those are tremendous passions of mine. I've had, as far as bikes, you know, I've had my first motorcycle was a CBR 600 RR 2006. From there, I went to, what did I have? Did I sell? So I sold the CBR because I was like, okay, I'm out of bikes. I'm done with bikes for a little while. Like it was, you know, I sold it. Yeah. And then my next one was like, oh, I just want something to putt around on, you know. Like I want a bike, but I don't want anything fast. And so I what I told myself. So I bought a little Ninja 250, and just because I was like, you know what, they're dirt cheap, and I would encourage this for anyone, like especially if you're younger, if you've never had a bike, like, dude, get a Ninja 250. They're a blast. They're super nimble. You can literally, because I've done it, I can attest to this. Like you can literally drag the pegs in a parking lot because you can turn so sharp with them. I scared the hell out of somebody when I was pulling back into work one time because in my work parking lot, like right by the door where the customers leave, there's a sharp right turn. And I literally was dragging peg through the Goodyear parking lot that I worked at to pull back into work. And they're like,
oh, snap.
I'm just like, yeah, it's all good. Like it's a Ninja 250. Like they weigh nothing. They're nimble. But anyway, it's like a bicycle with an engine on it. But so I had one of those, went from that to a Gixxer 600. I actually got hit by a car on my Gixxer 600, almost died. They thought I had brain damage. I was in the hospital for a little over a week. I was in recovery from that for like 3 or 4 months. Yeah, broke a bunch of bones, got a bunch of, I already had rods in my spine. So now I've got I broke my femur, broke the long bone in my foot, cracked my hip, but walked away with I had no trauma. I wasn't bleeding at all. It was weird. So
glad you're still here.
Weird. Yeah, it wasn't weird. I mean, it was a blessing. I was very lucky. I still tell people all the time that someone or something was looking out for me, because I definitely should have been dead that day. They say they think I was doing like well over 100 miles an hour.
Jesus.
And a car pulled out in front of me. Yeah. And just, I tore the whole front end off of a Lexus. I mean, tore the whole front end off of my bike.
Damn.
And yeah. So, I mean, I'm
glad you're here, but I don't blame you. I like going fast.
Yeah. So what did I do after wrecking the Gixxer 600? Well, I went off to college first, got healed up, and about 8 months later, I bought a Gixxer 1000. So I called my dad. I was like, hey, I just want to let you know. Yeah, I was like, hey, Dad, I'm just letting you know, like, I'm buying another bike. And he's like, oh, okay, well, all right. And again, like, keep in mind, my dad's already lost a son. And I guess that's why I wanted to let him know that I was doing that. And I was so surprised that he wasn't like upset about it. And I guess that's what I was hoping for a little bit. It was like, I almost thought he was going to talk me out of it, but he was just like, all right, well, if that makes you happy, like, that's totally cool. But like, so like, what bike are you getting? I was like, well, you remember that bike? I literally word for word said this. I was like, you remember the bike I almost died on, the Gixxer 600? He was like, yeah. I was like, well, I'm getting the one with the bigger engine. He goes, all right, be safe. And I'm sure he hung up the phone and just did one of these, like, you son of a bitch. So I had one of those, and then ultimately the last bike I had was an FZ09, Yamaha FZ09, 900cc 3-cylinder. A little bit more of an upright riding position. Yeah. My favorite bike I ever had. So love motorcycles, love cars.
Nice. Do you still ride now, or?
So I don't have a motorcycle currently. It's one of those things, man, going through a divorce and incurring a bunch of debt because of other people and this, that, and the other. It starts to make you realize your priorities. And so I'm just like, there's things I could spend my money on. Honestly, I think the reality is, like, that's my motorcycle behind me.
Yep.
If I wasn't doing this, absolutely. Like, if I didn't have all the snakes and I wasn't doing what we're talking about, that's probably what I'd be spending my free time doing.
I feel
it. But I'm content with it. Like, this is what I'm obsessed with right now, and I'm content to kind of take a step back from that. So
I feel it. I always got to ask, man. It's always interesting to hear what people do outside of the reptiles. I know everybody in the comments are here for the reptiles. So sorry if that question bugs you guys, but also not sorry, because I think it's nice to get to know people outside of just the reptiles. I want to know the people that I'm supporting and buying from, not just, oh, look at that snake.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time, man. I think, and this is my favorite part about going to shows, right, is that you walk into a reptile show. Even people with anxiety like me, which a lot of people don't believe, but I do. I have tremendous social anxiety. Even people like me, I recognize I can walk up to anybody in this room, anyone in this room, and we already have common ground. So outside of that, it really doesn't matter what I say, because we already have this shared interest in something. Like, exactly. It should be our comfort zone, and it should be our comfort zone to very quickly move past, because it's like, we already understand that you like that stuff and I like that stuff too. Let's move on to something way more interesting. Like, tell me about something that I don't know anything about that gets you happy. Like, what excites you that I haven't done? Because if you're into it and you and I share this other thing, then maybe it's something I'll like too. Like, that's the exciting part. That's what we should all be carrying with us every day.
100%.
Not worried about like how so-and-so keeps their snake or whatever the fuck. Like, that should be like the last thing on our mind. It should way more be just the people that we have the opportunity to connect with, man. And
100%, man.
That's been my biggest takeaway for the short period of time that I've been doing this.
Plus, I don't know how you do it, man, but you are always so happy and positive about everything. Everything. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I had such a fucking great laugh. Was it Antoine who posted the Teletubby Zach? Mm-hmm. Dude, I straight up busted laughing for probably a good 10-15 minutes solid.
Dude, so did I. Because he posted that when I was on a live. He posted it in the middle of a live stream. It was on for those who don't know, Miri and I from MSB Reptiles, she and I are doing a weekly live now on Instagram. We both were just talking about how we wanted to like up our Instagram game, and we don't do enough on that platform. So we're going to do that weekly. Which thankfully, like, we kind of asked everybody to let us know, like, should this be a thing? And everybody was super supportive. Yep. Anyways, Antoine jumped in on that, and he made some comment about how he's like, because same thing, that he was saying was like, he's like, Zach literally right now is so happy and so smiley. He's like, he looks like the happy baby from the Teletubbies son. And I made a comment on the stream. I was like, dude, I was like, I don't know who the fuck it's going to be. I was like, please make that into Photoshop that. Like, somebody please Photoshop it and send it to me right now.
I tried to make that live, so I must have missed that whole part.
It must have taken him like 4 minutes. He goes, somebody was like, the comment section went nuts, like laughing. He said something and somebody sent it to me while I was on the stream. And so I could see it like in my other window.
Oh, damn.
Dude, I had a full on meltdown, like tears running down my face live laughing. Like, there's a whole probably 5 minutes of that live that are just literally Miri and I and the whole comment section, all of us just dying.
Damn, and, I could only imagine, dude.
I changed my profile picture to that for a minute on Instagram, and then I was like, this is going to be confusing to people that are trying to track me down. So I'll change it back to the Nava Reptiles thing. But like, the other part that was funny,
I think in every other platform though, you need to change that picture to.
I might need to.
All the Discords. Yeah, it needs to be there.
Yeah, I need to preserve it for sure, but. Dude, that's the kind of stuff that makes my day, man. I actually made a post about it. Even first of all, like Antoine even doing that. Yeah. So when we started that stream, I think I was at like 1170 as far as Instagram followers. I hit 1220 by like the next day. So I gained like 50 followers overnight just from Antoine making that post and like just like cutting up about it. Damn. But I made my own post, and this is absolutely how I felt, man. Was like, because Antoine, for those who don't know, he's a big teddy bear, like that dude is not even capable of insulting anyone. And that's the other part, was like a ton of people saying they saved it their phone contacts. Like, I love that shit. Like, a lot of people might have been embarrassed, but I love every bit of it.
I'm so doing that now. I gotta go change your number.
Anything that I can be a part of that puts a smile on somebody's face, dude, I'm down. But he reached out and was like, like kind of made a comment, like, I hope I'm not like talking shit about you, man. Like, I love you, blah, blah. And I was like, dude, so I made a post. Like, that's like the greatest compliment that I could have ever received, because basically what he was saying, he was just like, dude, he said kind of the same thing you did. He's like, you're just always so smiley and happy and positive. He's like, I really meant it when I said it. He's like, that's literally how I see you, as just like this kind of ray of sunshine. And I'm like, yeah, man, like it, like I'm not kidding. Like it really, like that shit hit me in the heart in a weird way. Dude, I love that stuff.
I'll tell you right now, from a personal standpoint, it's refreshing, because you see so many people, even on these other live streams and stuff, all they do is want to bitch about people or call out people. And anybody who at least, has been a part of this live stream, they know I'm not about that. Like, I very rarely have gotten started, but I just don't like it, man. So I highly respect it, is what I'm trying to say. It's refreshing to see somebody who's just always just positive, good outlook on life,
Yeah. Thank you, man. That it means a lot. And I've never said this live, but I have, I've said it to some people, there are some days where it's a lot of pressure, right? And that's I don't want anybody to take that as like, stop telling Zach he's a positive. Like, no, I love it. Like, I am that guy, I promise. But it is, there are some days where I feel that pressure of like, man, like, I might just whatever, for whatever reason, I'm having a rough day. And I got people like tagging me in some things or whatever, like something where it's like, it makes me feel like I have a task, because people will tell you, I mean, anybody in this comment section will probably tell you, like, if I don't get back to somebody through text or Instagram Messenger or reply to a comment on YouTube or wherever it is, man, on whatever platform, like, I take that shit very personally. And that's just because, like, I feel like if you took even a half a second to respond to something that has any involvement with me, like, it is my duty to get back to you. Like, I have to get back to that person. Yeah, it's that important to me, because I want to make sure that everybody just, man, like, we just all have to fucking love each other, dude, and just build each other up. Like, none of this, nothing about.
I hate it when I miss that, because I feel bad. I'm like, holy shit, you took the time not only to like it, but to actually type some shit out and talk to me. Yeah. And then I'm the asshole who didn't reply to you. Fuck. I get that all the time. Sorry, Mindy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The long story short, I mean, no, I just thank you. I mean, it means a lot, and yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything else to say beyond that. It's
No,
just
dude,
that,
of course.
I tell people all the time, I wasn't always this person. I wasn't this person even a year or two ago, and I'm not always this person every day. But what I can say is that if I have anything to say about it, like, all of us should be that way. I mean, it is just the facts. Like, there's really at the end of the day nothing that, like, you're alive and you're breathing. You have every reason to smile, whether you realize it or not.
And even if you just think positive, it can change your mood so quickly by just trying to think positive.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Mental health is a big thing. I struggle with mental health, as do a lot of people. My favorite people, Billy and Brian, and a lot of those guys, they talk a lot about mental health. And I talk about it often on days where I'm not doing well, man. I make a point to talk about it. And that's not because I'm like, oh, woe is me. It's so that people understand that, hey, Zach, I know him as the smiley guy and the happy guy in the reptile hobby, is having a bad day. And it's like, oh, wow, me too. Zach's not always happy. Like, Zach also gets like this. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah. Like, well, if Zach can be that happy as I saw him yesterday, and today he feels like shit, well, then maybe when I feel like shit, I can get back to being that happy place too.
100%, man, 100%.
So I just believe in being genuine at all times. I never try to shy away from fucking anything. And so, yeah. So anyway, 100%. I don't want to dwell on this too long.
And dude, no. But come on, this is perfect. Dude, Tom, that's comment award of the night right there.
Tom,
that's straight comment award of the night. All right, so now I know what to change your picture to and your name on my phone.
And my nickname. Well, and Warren Booth, also for anybody that doesn't know, calls me Ball Bag. That's my nickname that I was graced with by Warren Booth. So
Ball Bag. Okay, I need the story beyond this one.
So it was literally like we were on. For those who don't know, Chris Eaton does his Zoom open Zoom calls, right? Have you made one of those? You don't think you have?
No, I haven't.
Dude, you got to make it into one of those. So I think the next one, it should be coming up. It should be next Sunday. I think should be the next one.
Okay.
But they're literally wide open. But like Warren Booth will be in there. Like a ton of different guys.
Yeah.
But Billy will be in there. Just all those guys. But yeah, he jumped in.
Just like a bullshitting thing, or
yeah, literally. Like they're like, we don't talk snakes. Chris, as a matter of fact, like hates it when we talk snakes. He hates when we talk genetics.
Okay.
He hates all of that stuff. Let me actually give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna just try to pull up the link. It doesn't really matter. It's not that serious. But it's just an open call. So, but like Kabilka will jump in there. Like, I mean, just you name it. Like, it's just, you never know. And it's just a mixed bag. And obviously it's Chris Eaton. So there's always all kinds of just ball busting going around. And somebody said something, or I was distracted and I just wasn't paying attention. Like, I was texting on my phone for there was a good reason, to be clear. I wasn't ignoring all these people for nothing. Like, there was a very important text string that I was kind of replying to. And he was like, Zach, he's like, you're in North Carolina, right? With this Irish accent. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I am. And he goes, well, how is it out there? And I was like, caught off guard, because I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like,
how is what?
How is what? But so my immediate thing was like, what's the simplest response? Like, okay, he must be asking about the weather. I don't know. And I was like the weather, like, it's fine. Like, it's beautiful out here or whatever. Yeah. And he goes, no, you fucking ball bag. He's like, I'm talking about fucking COVID. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that's what we were talking about right now. They were asking about, I guess the topic came up of COVID restrictions in various states and this and the other. And he used to live in Raleigh, and they travel to the Outer Banks a lot. And so he was asking me specifically about how the COVID restrictions are in North Carolina. But I was just so thrown off. And so the thing is Chris Eaton, of course, hears this and just dies. He's like, I can't believe that you just got called a ball bag by a PhD. Like you fucking idiot. He's like, you deserved it, and this, that, the other thing, and so literally that of course spiraled, because again, it's a Chris Eaton Zoom call. Yeah, I'm dying, and I'm also kind of embarrassed, because I'm like, this person who I have a lot of respect for asked me a legitimate question, called me out, and I was like, that was the other thing I was caught off guard by. I'm like, oh shit, why are you saying my name? Like, why are you even talking to me? And I was a little bit red in the face, and I was overwhelmed. And then I reply like an idiot, and then I get called a ball bag, which I died.
Damn. Damn.
But like I said, so literally on top of that, like a couple people in the middle of the Zoom call take their phones out and they're like holding their phones up to the camera. They're like, "Yep, that's your name in my phone now is Zach Ballbag Nava." I'm like, well, I guess I asked for this. So, apparently, man, if nothing else, I have a knack for entertaining people. I have a knack for making people laugh, whether it's at my expense or whatever. I will never shy away from that shit.
Hey, that's okay.
It's all good.
Laughs are good, man. Laughs are good.
No, exactly. We all need more of them, dude. We all need more of them. I don't care what it takes. So,
damn, dude, damn. So, by the way, anybody in the chat who has any questions, feel free to shoot them out. If you guys haven't been a part of these lives, I recognize almost every name in here, but also not everybody's commenting. But I'm always open to asking questions that are thrown out in the chat. So I know I missed one earlier, and I felt kind of bad, and I was trying to find it, but I can't.
Yeah, it is really difficult, and I always I always encourage people like, what you got?
I got a 10-month-old pearl.
Medium rats.
I'm kind of confused on the question.
Well, I think what they're saying, or she Justin. Sorry, I was reading another comment from somebody else at the same time. I apologize. Justin, I'm guessing, is asking. Best I can tell, his references in regards to feeding medium rats, frozen thawed.
If you're asking if that's okay, that's perfectly fine. I would, if you notice she's getting a little too thick, though, I would cut that intervals down to like 10 to 14 days versus 7 days. Sorry that took a minute to get back to you, Justin, but hopefully that helps. If not, feel free to reach out to me too. I'm always happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. I that's one thing too. I love the YouTube platform, but sometimes it's frustrating, because I understand that, occasionally we're going to miss some things and some people can get frustrated. Yep. I've seen it numerous times. It doesn't happen often, but
I always try to catch them, but I'm just like, sometimes I'm involved with what we're talking about, which I was when that question came up. So, here's one for you, Zach. What's the weirdest food you love?
I'm just going to go with asparagus because it's weird to me that I love it because I hated it so much when I was a kid. Like it would make me want to vomit.
That is weird.
But I love it. Yeah. So I was like, this it's a vegetable. I love zucchini. I love zucchini, but asparagus is a thing that grew on me as a kid.
Okay. That's a good one.
So I'll go with that.
I have a weirdest food that I love. I think all my food that I love are pretty average.
If I wouldn't have gone the vegetable route, I think it would have. I was struggling with the thought, so that helped.
I guess the only thing I could think of would be eggs Benedict, because some people don't like the hollandaise sauce, but that's my favorite food on this planet.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. I think that a lot of people hate the hollandaise sauce because they've had bad hollandaise sauce. The same way as I hated
out of the package. Yeah.
The same way that I hated asparagus as a kid because it was out of a can and it was disgusting compared to real asparagus that's just this is delicious.
Yep.
Exactly, Aurora, and that's how I like mine. That's how I like all of my vegetables is barely cooked. Well, any green vegetables, barely cooked, just basically just up
barely. Yep. Yeah. I like Tucker's question though. Is there a new species that either of you are interested in working with, or what's your favorite species you can't have? Do you want to go ahead and answer that one first?
No, it's up to you. Do you have an answer already, or do you need to think about it?
I'm pretty easy. The one I can't have is a black dragon. I absolutely love monitors. If you guys don't know already, I love big animals. Don't take that wrong. I love my little hognose and ball pythons and stuff too, but I have a thing for giant animals of every species. So I want a freaking big old black dragon that I can hug and hang out with. Yeah. But they're illegal in Washington. Another species that I'm really interested in working with, which I will have probably this season, is Angolan Pythons. I really love the Angolan Pythons. I just think they're an amazing species. So, that'd be my two.
Love it. So this one, somebody asked me this recently, and then they were they were surprised by how vanilla my answer was because they're like, well, I would have thought you would have gone with something more extreme, and I'm just like, well, my brain, and same way as you saying about me not expanding into multiple projects and things, right?
Yep.
I'm for the most part, I'm a very emotional person, but I'm also very good at being focused when it comes to certain aspects. I'm very focused right now on between the dwarves and super dwarves and these ultramobile pythons. So like, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about stuff that I can't keep or would like to keep, because I've basically told myself, like, committed it to my mind that it's not feasible. So I don't spend a lot of time dwelling on it. So I always struggle to kind of answer this question, because there's a lot of them, right? But if
fair
it's
enough,
just,
fair enough.
I can't name like this is the next one, right? Because I don't really have a next one in line. But like, man, like I would love to keep like mangrove snakes. I think in terms of any kind of hot, which, you know, they're not super hot, but they're a hot.
Yeah,
still.
no,
I
Boega
love mangrove snakes. I think they're beautiful. I think they're extremely popular, and for very good reason, right? I think they're just amazing animals, and so I would say that's a big one for me. I would love to have just like an amazing arboreal enclosure for them. And just again, it's just one of those, like, if it was literally just a display animal, I'd be happy. I'd love to, same thing with green trees. Like, I don't necessarily want to breed them, but I would love to have at least just a green tree, even just as a pet, which is and then here's the thing. It wouldn't even have to be anything crazy, you know, because I know that green trees, like, everybody,
they get
it's
up
all
there.
about bloodlines. Like, I don't need that. Like, if I just had one that was, hey, it's a green tree and it's not, and I would prefer obviously something that was captive bred. I'd be happy with that. Like, I don't care if it's some crazy bloodline or something that's
those
amazing.
are great
That's
answers.
something I would like to keep just to have. So
no, those are great answers, man. And I'm actually surprised you said the mangroves. That's one, you know, it almost makes me rethink my answer, because I've been really obsessing over the divergence.
Yeah,
there's something about that bluish color is just. Don't get me wrong. The regular Boega or the cat-eyed snake is. Those black and yellows are beautiful. But just that divergence with that weird blue hue. And to be honest, I don't even like the color blue, but that snake just stands out to me.
There's just something about it.
Yeah, there's something about it.
But that's the point. That's the point. That's how it's supposed to be. Just like we were going back to it earlier, like, you like this line of or whatever. Like, this is your favorite GHI you ever saw. Well, this is mine, and they look different. Like, maybe you like a lighter color GHI, and I like the really dark one, or whatever the fuck it is. Yeah. You know, like, that's what it's supposed to be about, man. Like, and we've lost a little bit of that, or I think a lot of that in this culture that exists right now around. Oh, well, if you like reptiles, you have to keep them and breed them. Well, no, you don't. You can actually just basically keep the stuff you like. And people say, well, I need to breed them to be able to make them pay for themselves. Well,
no,
first of all, no, you also don't. You also don't have to do that, because you can just as easily just have one and just afford that one. And if you can't afford that one, then don't fucking keep it to begin with. Like,
I mean, I can easily name 5 or 6 species I have that were not cheap animals to either buy or keep that I'll never frickin' breed. I just love them.
It's just one that you wanted to have for sure.
Yeah. No, so I feel it, man.
With that. It's just a matter of a timing, and that's where I'm at. Timing wise, right now, I am keeping the stuff that I do want to breed. I'm keeping the stuff that I do want to try to, potentially make some money off of. Yeah. I'll keep all these things regardless. People say that all the time. Yeah. That's a fact. Here's the thing.
I do want to circle back for just a moment. You had said that you pick out the best, say, GHI that you like. I think that gets lost a lot of the times, is people don't realize it's not just about genes. I could go out and buy any GHI, but is that the GHI not only do you like, but is that a good quality? Is that going to be your, you want to base your brand and your GHIs off of that animal? Because I think,
and that's what I mean.
People get lost and they don't line breed. We hear it a lot with colubrids or other species, but you don't hear about it with ball pythons.
Mm-hmm. No, because it's a money game, and that's what I'm trying to. I'm not gonna say that I'm trying to change it. Like, I can't change that as an individim. I can change it.
I can still hear you, but I'm gonna crack this right over here. All right,
you're good. No problem. I'm not trying to change the hobby, because I can't do that as one person, but I can try to change it in my own small part by the way that I'm doing things, by the way that I'm operating, in the sense that I'm not gonna. No one's ever going to hear me talk about the fact that you should buy from me. And matter of fact, I can attest to this, because I said it on 15 Minutes Lame with Chris. For those that haven't heard it, I was on 15 Minutes Lame with Chris Eaton on the Bob Clark episodes. If you've listened to Bob Clark's episode, or if you haven't, I'm on that one. And my whole response to like why should I buy from you? So many people say that, because I have quality animals. Yeah, we all do. They're quality because they're alive and they're breeding and they're doing well. Like, they're healthy. Like, that should be What do you mean? That's the baseline. The baseline is that you have quality animals. That's not why people buy from you. You know, that argument is just moot. I don't need to pursue it beyond that. My thought is just, again, the best of what you saw, like what you looked at an animal and said, oh wow, you didn't look at the price. In other words, I don't care what the price is. I don't care what the price is on almost any animal that I buy. You know, within reason. Like if it's like just like way outside the range of, and it's something I can get from 5 other people, it's a different story. But the point is that you should be buying, especially single gene animals, buy them because they impress you. Don't buy them because you're like, your wallet. Oh, I need a GHI in my collection, or I need a yellow bell in my collection, or whatever. Like I have a male Inchi in my rack that I literally bought him because I was like, I love that Inchi and I would like to have that Inchi in my collection. Like I want that line of Inchi, you know, bred in, and I still have him. I'm still feeding him because I'm like, I don't really, you know, I have now, obviously my dreams are a little bit bigger. But I still have him because I still appreciate him for the fact that I opened that drawer. I'm like, man, that's a hell of an Inchi. You know, and so I'm kind of cool with it. So just
there's nothing wrong with that. I wish we would see more of it with the narrative. Yeah, I wish we would see more of it with the ball pythons and stuff. Well, just a lot of species. I mean, obviously, you know,
it's gonna come.
Yeah, I'm hoping, man. I'm hoping. I love seeing it even with the super dwarfs. I notice it a lot in that community. You know, you guys do actually focus on the line breeding. I don't know much, to be honest, about the localities or the you know, kind of, I shouldn't say the percentages just because that's kind of simple, but as far as like the localities and stuff and the morphs, I'm not the best with retics, honestly, especially the dwarf stuff. But
and that's totally fine, man. A lot of people aren't. A hell of a lot of people that are into them still don't, you know, fully, you know, understand. And and I would include myself in that. You know, I'm somewhat familiar with all the localities, but like if you put 2 of them in front of me, I couldn't tell you which one was which necessarily. Some that I feel like I could identify, but you know, I'm no Garrett, you know, but I've consumed a lot of content and I've you know, been around. I've been blessed enough to where I was able to go to his facility and see some animals in person and really kind of grasp, you know, some of the subtleties that do exist. And it confirmed to me that, you know, that direction that we're all headed, or trying to head in at least. So,
that kind of leads me to another question, actually. So you're talking about, and I'm kind of jumping around here, but it's just what you're saying is bringing up questions for me. So
no worries.
You're talking about getting called out in the Zoom meeting, right? And that you were kind of anxious about it and stuff. But that kind of makes me think, because you've had the chance to meet a lot of the, you know, bigger name people in our industry. How did that work with not only your anxiety, but like just overall? Was that like nerve-wracking for you, or how did that come about?
Yeah. So
I don't mention it, but I do have a lot of anxiety. I'm actually quite the introvert. So this like these live streams are about like as extroverted as I get besides vending a show. You know what I mean? Other than that, I'm a homebody or in the mountains. So
I'm actually really, really glad you asked this question, and it doesn't get talked about enough, to be honest. Matter of fact, give me 2 seconds. I'm just gonna open a window really quick. It's so fucking hot because I got this light beat down on it.
No, you're good. That's why I had to step over to open the door.
Yeah, exactly. So you understand. So this is such a great topic, and like I said, I really do. I like to talk about the mental health stuff a lot because I just feel like the more that we talk about it, the more normalized it feels. And I've had people even reach out to me, as small as I am, to just let me know, like, hey, I appreciate the fact that you talk about this stuff. So it's cool. So I have tremendous social anxiety and this, that, and the other. But so I've known Garrett for about 3.5 years now, I guess.
Okay.
And by known him, I mean, you know, 3.5 years ago, about 4 years ago, I reached out to him to try to buy my first dwarf, super dwarf. You know, I heard about him through his YouTube channel. I watched every video he had before I decided to reach out and was ready to actually spend some money. And then, you know, we spent a few months working through the right project for me. Garrett will probably tell you I'm a difficult customer because I'm particular. You know, I wanted something unique. So I was a pain in his ass for a little while. Right up until he called me and was like, Zach, I have the perfect project for you. And then I dropped a pretty good chunk of money. Anyways, so that's where it kind of started. You know, it was just like, I think Garrett is really good at being able to identify personalities, and he recognized in me that I was looking for something specific and something special. And so he identified me as the customer for those animals. And that's why I was blessed enough to be able to make that purchase. Right?
Yeah, that's seriously quite the project, man.
He could have sold them to anyone is the reality, but Garrett does a phenomenal job just in terms of lining up the right customer for every animal he sells, man. I mean, he doesn't sell it just anything to just anyone. And I tell that to people all the time, and I don't feel like a lot of people listen to me because they think that I'm just blowing smoke. But I mean, having spent time around him, I can tell you that that's the case. Anyways, so that's where it kind of started. And then just honestly, man, it was just, I always try to respect people's time. Periodically I would shoot Garrett a text like, hey man, do you have a few minutes for a phone call? If not right now, like just let me know. Let's schedule a call, right? Yeah. You schedule 15 minutes, you can talk to me. And that's advice I would give anybody. Like if there's somebody that in the industry that you would like to chat with, like, first of all, don't hesitate to reach out to them because it's all of our jobs. To be active within this community. But on top of that, like make sure you're being respectful of their time. If you want to buy something, reach out and buy it. If you're thinking about buying something, I would say spend a few minutes thinking about it on your own before you reach out. Like I don't like to reach out to anybody until I'm ready to spend money, at least in regards to specific questions about actually spending the money on the animals. It's different, but that's a whole other thing. But anyways, honestly, man, I just spent some time just building that relationship, staying in communication with him, letting him know what was going on with the animals that I had from him. Because I think any breeder appreciates that. And so again, I just kind of slowly built what I now consider to be a friendship with him. Showing up at the house though was a totally different thing. It was like once he and I talked about me coming up there and spending almost a full week at his facility, like talking about it was one thing, and I was super hyped on it. Yeah. And keep in mind that was when I first started my YouTube channel, which was also because of Garrett. Between Garrett and Brian Cusco, but Garrett is the one that I actually talked to on the phone about it. Okay. And Garrett was the one that encouraged me to start my channel and really lean into what I was doing. And so I credit him a lot with anything that I have going on. Like I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if it wasn't him. Yeah. And so, so that was the thing. Anyways, I get up there and like pulling into Garrett's driveway was like the most, heart beating out of my chest, like want to talk about like basically full blown panic attack. While also having to meet this person. And Garrett's just like full smiles, like walks up like and just big hug. And I was panicking the whole time. Like if he sees this later, he's gonna laugh his ass off. I was in full on like, what am I even doing here? Like I was like, it was like moving in slow motion. And I felt that way for literally like the first day and a half that I was there. I didn't settle into being at Garrett's place until like the last few hours that I had to be there, and then I had to leave, which is why the video that I released from the visit to his place I was happy with the video that I got out of it. But what a lot of people don't realize is there's like a whole 2 days worth of footage that I couldn't use. I couldn't make it into a video. It's just like a lot of like random shots because I was so uncomfortable in my own skin, and I need time to plan things a lot of times. And I didn't spend the time before I went up to plan what I wanted to do on video. Garrett was like, dude, we should do an Instagram live while you're here. And I'm like, I've never done one of those. I don't know how to feel about that. I feel like I shouldn't deserve you having me on an Instagram live, but that's the reality of it, dude. That is the reality. And so I spent all this money and all this time to go up there, and I really still beat myself up about it. I totally shit the bed on that entire trip. But here's the reality, and this is what I would say to Zach that was feeling that way when I came back from that trip, because that's totally how I felt. It's like, dude, I did it, and like the relationships that I built off of that, that foundation were tremendous. Because I went up there, Blake Stewart offered for me to stay with him when I went, because Blake lives about an hour away from Garrett. So like, I got to hang out. Blake and I went to the gym. Like we spent a bunch of time together, filmed a video at his house. And that was only was through Garrett, because Garrett connected Blake and I. Blake did my logo. And so it's just, man, that's awesome. It's just, this is, I'm so glad you brought this. This is literally like people that think that I'm this like social media personality because they've seen my stuff or whatever. Like, dude, I am not. I am like the most like anxious, like weirded out person who just happens to be able to talk really well sometimes. But anybody can do the shit that I do, and a lot of people can do it better than I can. The difference is just do it, just lean into it. That's the advice that I give constantly. It's a piece of advice that was given to me a long time ago, and I took away from it what I thought I needed to take away from it. It's just lean into it. Like me leaning into this hobby and leaning into my passion for these animals that I share with all of you guys is the greatest decision that I ever made in my life, because every single day it has filled those gaps in time, or it has filled those moments where I normally wouldn't have had necessarily anything to do. It has filled those gaps in time with something. Yeah. Whether it's talking to somebody like you, like, hey man, I hope you're having a good fucking day. Like those little texts, dude, like shit like that. I love that, dude. I live for this hobby now because of the people. I don't care if I never sell a single snake. And the reality is too, I don't think anybody in this hobby cares. If I sold every animal that I have behind me right now and I never produced anything and I never kept another fucking reptile, I would still talk to all of these people that I'm friends with. That's the point. That is the greatest takeaway, is just fuck. Like, you don't have to do this shit at any large level. You don't have to be a breeder. You don't have to keep anything. There are people that I know. Elliot is Elliot. Elliot. There are people in this hobby that keep nothing, but they have such a passion for the animals that we keep.
Every single video, every single picture, he's always on it. I mean, and not just mine, obviously yours and a lot of other people in the community. Like, that's one thing I love, because a lot of the other communities I was in, or hobbies, I should say, that have, small communities, it's not, there's not as much love as there is in the reptile community. Not to say there's no good hobbies out there or communities, but just the reptile community is something else, man. And I love it. That's why I kind of was curious, because, I've had the chance to not meet in person, but just talk to some of these, bigger name guys. And at first, like I said, I don't really bring it up, but I was so nervous about talking to these guys. And it was just like, I mean, it's one good one was Brian Gundy. I had some random questions in regards to breeding, and I felt so weird reaching out to him. Dude just sends me his personal phone number and tells me to give him a call, like when I have him in it, and I happen to be busy for a little bit. So I was like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm busy. Can I call you in like 30 minutes? Or when?
And I know that you felt so bad about like, oh, he offered me the time and I can't do it right now.
And I'm like, I'm freaking literally, I'm like busy, I can't do it. And I'm like, okay, shoot, and he's like, oh no, that's perfectly fine. I freaking call him in 30 minutes. We were on the phone for, at least a good 2 hours. And I'm like, I kept trying to like, not like trying to end the conversation, but like
dude,
I felt bad because I'm like,
I do it with Garrett. I try to rush myself off the phone. Because I'm like, I have so much. And I had this conversation with Garrett. I was like, dude, I hope you know that how many times I've rushed myself off the phone with you. I was like, because I almost overly respect your time. I'm like, I don't want you to waste your time on me. And he corrected me. He goes, Zach, I don't think it's possible for anyone to respect my time more than I do. And he goes, so if I'm on the phone with you and I'm not rushing off the phone, he's like, it's not your place to do that. And that like blew my mind, right? Because it was just one of the, and like it was just how bluntly he said it, as if it was just fact. And it is fact. Like it is. And like I still carry that with me. That man, I will try my damnedest. I'm not gonna say I'll never do it again, because it's an anxiety thing. I get anxious. You get anxious talking to people that are so important with you, and you feel like your time and your question is so unimportant in relation that you feel the need to rush yourself off. But I think that it's just a matter of obviously paying attention to audible cues. If somebody's ready to go off the phone, they'll let you know. But up until that point, God, if you can get somebody like which you can, for the record, also, if you get the opportunity to talk to somebody like a Garrett or a Bob Clark or just any of these guys, Brian Cusco, Brian Gundy, any of those guys, like all of those people, like if you have the chance to talk to them, they'll talk to you for pretty much as long as you like. And the reality is that we're all adults. They'll let you know if they're ready to go. Like they're going to give you some sort of indication. But yeah, I get it, man. Like we all put them on this pedestal, and I just met Brian Cusco for the first time at Arlington. This past Arlington, and it was like I had known him forever, which I had talked to him a lot prior, but I had never met Dave Kaufman. I shared a hotel room with Dave Kaufman at Arlington. Never met him. I met him 3 hours before he and I shared a room together. You know, it's just like that. But
yep,
we're all just people. You know,
so
I woke up in the morning.
That must
Dave
have been who was
morning.
in the background of Cusco's video with Cusco, Garrett, and Bradley were on, and they were talking about you pulling out a retic in the background or something, I believe.
Oh, I didn't know about that, actually.
Oh my God, why am I searchable as reptiles? They were recording the podcast.
Yeah, so
I was like, is that Zach in the background?
So I actually missed that podcast because I had to catch my flight. That podcast was and that podcast was supposed to happen on Friday. Like way early, because my flight was supposed to land on Friday at like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And my flight got so delayed that I didn't get to the hotel until like almost 11 o'clock at night. So like,
oh damn,
dude, I missed out on, like, we couldn't do the searchable as reptiles. We couldn't do connected by creatures.
Damn.
We couldn't do, I didn't get to go to Earl's place. I didn't get to go to dinner with everybody at Arlington. Like, there's a whole big dinner that, with all the breeders happens on Friday.
Oh,
dude,
I bring up bad.
No. Here's the thing. It all works out the way it's supposed to, dude. Like everything, even that included. Just my best advice I'm telling you to anybody in this hobby, just fucking get involved. Like, just show up. Just show up. Like, Like, if I don't care what show. Like, I'll be at the Conroe show in June. It's June 12th and 13th, I think, are the dates. Don't quote me on that. Conroe, Texas, the Herp show. I will be at that show. I don't give a fuck who shows up at that show. If you walk up to me and say, hey, Zach, I'm so-and-so. Also, please introduce yourselves. I'm terrible with fucking Instagram handles. If you and I have had, I don't care how long we've talked, if I haven't actually like seen you face to face, I'm not gonna know who the fuck you are. I don't care who it is, though. Anybody that wants to walk up to me at Conroe, be like, Zach, what's up, man? I don't fucking know anybody here. Like, I will help you. I will introduce you to fucking anybody and everybody that I can. Like, that's the way that it should be, because that's how it was done for me.
That's awesome.
You know, my first Arlington show, my first ever NARBC was last year in September during COVID. Yeah. So it was a slower show, but I got invited out by a couple of people that I knew in the industry.
Yep.
And they took me under their wing and invited me out, and they introduced me to everyone. Yeah. And then, dude, this time I went to Arlington, and I'm telling you guys that those Texas shows, it's fucking family. So literally, I went to one Arlington in September, and I went to Arlington again this year, and it was like everybody was like, Zach, what's up, man? Like, it was like I had been there for 10 fucking years. Yeah. And there's no better feeling in the world as somebody that has such anxiety. Yep. To be just welcomed in, man. Like, I walked around that show like I fucking owned the place, and not with an arrogance, but with just a comfortability. I was so comfortable, and I was so happy. And I experienced and appreciated so much more from that show this time around than I did when I went before. That was only because I forced myself to be uncomfortable the first time. So do the shit that makes you uncomfortable. It'll make you grow.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. So I kind of want to wrap this back into the snakes for a minute, because, you know, just to wrap this up, I know we're approaching that 2-hour mark, and I just want to
no sweat.
Kind of, you know, wrap it back into the reptiles for a moment, I guess. I'm trying to figure out how to word this properly, so sorry if I'm stalling that out for a minute, but I guess basically, what is your long-term goals? Because obviously you're a very goal-oriented guy, but I want to know, I can see your obvious goals. We talked about that too with your clutches for this season, but where do you see yourself in like 5 or say 10 years? Do you want to keep the size you are or grow? You kind of know where I'm going with this. So
I love this question so much. And I know that you probably didn't expect to hear that, because it's like a
lot of people hate the question.
No. I here's the thing. I think anybody that hates this question is like, they're not as excited about their future as I am.
Yep, or they haven't thought that far ahead.
One or the other, right? One or the other, or maybe they're just jaded. You know, I don't know. Dude, my future in this stuff, where I'm headed with it, it builds every day. You can't see it, thank God, but I almost have tears in my eyes. Like I get so excited about this stuff, not even because of like what I'm keeping right now, or like, again, like that person that asked me the other day, like, oh, well, what's like your dream species? Like, what are you really? I'm like, I don't know. I hadn't thought that far ahead. I haven't thought that far ahead in general with like my collection in the reptile world. But what I do know is that the things that I'm doing today are all, and I think about this with everything. This is definitely like something that's personal to me.
Yeah.
And I wish more people thought this way, dude. Whether it's a job that I have, or it's what I'm doing with reptiles, or it's what I'm doing with anything. Everything I'm doing right now today is just a stepping stone. It's all just a step towards
100%.
the next thing,
Yep.
towards something bigger that I'm trying to build. And man, like, I don't have that definitive answer for like what my life is going to look like in 20 years or 25 years or whatever.
Yeah.
I have some very like specific and general things that I would like to see happen. Which is like, somebody asked me about like going to shows, and I'm like, well, I don't really ever want to have to go to shows, but the day that I do my first show, I'm like, I want to be able to go to a show with a full table of fucking orange ball pythons. Like, I want to go with a full ass table of nothing but visual fucking ultramels in like every form imaginable. That's when I would go and do a show. And that's only when I would go and do a show. And it would only be because I don't want to sell anything. I just want to show. I just want to fucking, just
not for sale on every freaking display.
Literally, if for no other reason than to fill that image in my head, because I can't remember the guy's damn name, and people have told me 1,000 times. There's a guy when he goes to the show, he works with Xanthic.
Okay.
And all of his ball pythons are black and white. That's his thing. And his show setup is all black and white. And so literally you walk down the rows of this guy's ball pythons and it's nothing but visual Xanthics on black and white paper. And it's just the most like visually impressive thing that you've ever seen. I want to say JD Constriction, but that doesn't sound right.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
I think it's JD Constriction.
Yeah.
JD.
I'm almost positive you're right.
Yeah, because it is. It's JD. JD Constriction. His booth is amazing. Like from a marketing standpoint, it's phenomenal. If you're
I've seen the pictures that he posts. I'm just like, damn, that's so pretty sad. It made me honestly. I saw a bunch of the pictures from the recent expos. I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna search some new display cases and a new backdrop and table covers.
There's so much drama to it, man. And that's the and I'm also weird because I get excited about the way that people market things. Like, I love like Troy from Best Dressed Balls. I love the way that he markets himself because I'm like, dude, like it's outside the box, and it's fun. You get to laugh when you go to show because you're wearing these goofy, like sequined suit jackets, but also you can, again, like it's part of your brand and you catch people's eye. And so there's layers to this shit that people don't talk about. It's not, it doesn't have to be, I guess, as simple as like, oh, well, I make these snakes and here's my table and here's my display and here's my logo behind me. Like, you can do weird, outside the box, crazy, creative, strange, off the wall shit, and it will make you that much more successful, and you'll have that much more fun with it.
Right,
and that's what it comes down to, man. Like I'm glad that I'm at the size that I am because I don't have to take this shit super seriously.
Yeah, my introduction to expos is I never went to expos at all. All. I built a whole collection. I mean, my collection was pretty much almost this size before I ever went to an expo. So my first expo was me vending. So I had no idea what to expect.
You didn't know what you were in for. You didn't know about the culture because there's like a family that exists within every expo too.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Like people that have done that expo.
I'm like with my delis with snakes in them and like doing that thing, and like, oh my God. It just after I saw that expo, I think I vended one more expo since then, but I'm just like, I don't even want to go back and vend until I have like everything set. So I've just been working on like, okay.
And that's how I am, man. Yeah.
If you can't tell, I love black and green, right? Dude, so I'm like, I need black and green displays and this.
You're gonna crush it. Like whatever. That's why it's not why. It's part of why I love the shit that you do, man. It's those little details, it's the little things that you do to set yourself apart. And I know that you didn't, and I also know that you didn't do that because you're like, oh, people are gonna like this. You did it because you're like, oh shit, that looks awesome. And it does. Yep. That's what I get excited about, dude. Like, and that's what I'm saying. That's
if I looked at a table, I'd want to see a black and green table because I'd be like, damn, that's hot.
Right. Exactly. I get excited about this stuff. Anytime there's anything about anybody that I get excited about, like there's a and fuck, I feel bad because I can't think of their company name offhand, but I've talked to them both times I went to Arlington. They made their displays. And part of it is like this wire aluminum, like it's all like custom welded, and the guy made it himself. But it's really super well done, and it's very different.
Okay.
And the first time I saw it, it caught my eye, and I stopped and I told them, I was like, and as it turned out, it's funny, their table caught my eye, and then come to find out they actually worked with Ultramount a little bit. They had a couple of heads on the table. But I stopped.
But you wouldn't have known if it wasn't for those displays.
I might not have caught it exactly. And I told them that. I was like, hey, I just want you guys to know, because this is the person that I am. Is like, again, to reiterate, like as much as I have like social anxiety and stuff, like, dude, at the shows, I'll talk to anyone. I don't give a fuck. Like, we have this in common. Like, I'm good. At the same time, I will say this: what I hate is there's been a handful of times where there's been people where I've like, hey, how's y'all show going? Or like, how's the day been for you guys? Are you guys making some money? Or like, hey, I like your table. And gotten no response. Yep. Dude. Do you understand how badly I want to reach across the table and tell those motherfuckers to just like leave? Just get out of here. Like, we don't need you. Like, you're a piece of shit.
There's a few local
not
guys
even
that
you're literally not even capable of being a nice person. I want you to just not exist.
They just sit there on their phone and just do nothing. You know, dude,
that doesn't happen for the most part at the NARBC, but dude, like Repticons and shit, I'm like, none of you guys, like, this shit shouldn't even exist at some point.
Yeah,
the Atlanta Repticons, from what I understand, are really great. The Charlotte Repticons are pretty brutal to even begin to deal with. But again, like I said, that's not to be negative. So, I'm glad they exist, and I'm sure they'll get better as we.
Yeah, and there's so many good freaking vendors, man. It was actually one of my good buddies, Shane from Evergreen State Reptiles. Yeah, I saw his booth, and he's gonna hold me to this forever if he hears this. But I was super impressed, so I was like, all right, I need this. I need to one this, not necessarily one up this, but like I have to get on this level or above. Like it has to be met or above, you know. And I'm like, oh shit, because he just full out, you know. And then it was also Garrett's displays, with those cages, and I was like, because obviously I do the berms, and I was like, you know what, that'd be amazing if I could have a rolling display where I could bring a couple large berms so people know what they're getting into. If it's somebody that, you know, what if I don't necessarily feel comfortable selling them a large berm? I want to see you handle one of my adults with me and see how you can interact with that animal before I'm going to sell you.
You give them that quick and fast education. First of all, you give them a great experience, and then on top of that, you can reassure yourself as to whether or not you actually want to sell to this customer. And they're actually
I can see it in somebody's eyes, whether they're physically ready or not. I can see if they're mentally ready
very quick.
For that snake.
Yep, very quickly.
So that's actually one thing I did when Josh was just talking. He was like, oh, is that when we met Dylan? It was at the second expo, and something I thought to be a little different since I didn't have the displays and everything is I brought a 4-foot, and I put my green doublehead albino granite in it. So I had my dude Gizmo just hanging out all day, letting people hold him and stuff, which is also a gray area depending on the expos. I did end up with issues from that, but
really,
he had mites. He came home and got mites, and I know exactly. Gotcha. I know, honestly, I know exactly where they fucking came from. It's one vendor who vends every show.
I thought you meant you had issues at the show where like people were upset about you like having around or having.
So that was actually a partial thing, but I know the guy, and I think he was just upset because I had my berms and he didn't have his.
Yeah,
it was an expo in Portland. Okay. I contacted the promoter before I ever went down there. You're not supposed to sell berms within Portland city limits. Anything over 8 feet is illegal. But I was told, because I'm out of town, I'm at the expo, I'm able to bring my Burmese and show my Burmese. Yeah. And very specifically from the the promoter, I was not allowed to sell my berms inside of the building. That was his exact wording.
Yeah, because he's like, listen, if you want to go exchange some cash out in the parking lot, and
he made a point of it, which I will say I did not do. I did leave city limits. I did leave city limits and meet somebody, but they actually lived in Washington. So I said, hey, we're both going to be here for the day. If you guys don't mind going out for dinner before you take off out of town, I'll meet you on my way home. Blah 100%. Blah blah. But either way, there was one gentleman who did that just because like I said, he was upset. The very next Portland Expo, he was there with his big picture, with his big picture. Oh my God, with his big Burmese taking pictures with everybody, charging them money to take pictures. And I was like, oh, that's what he was upset about is I wasn't charging people money. I just wanted them to enjoy the species with me.
Yeah, I was just saying, I'll be honest, man. I'm not a fan of the people that do that. You know,
no. I feel like it's using them a little too much. We already breed them and sell their babies. Like, come on, to take a picture with your freaking snake. If I'm coming out to do a show at like, you know, somebody's party or something, that's different. Yeah. But if you're just hanging out and I'm here and you're freaking holding my snake, I'm gonna charge you to take a get out of here.
You're at a Repticon, because that's how the Charlotte Repticon is. There's a booth where they'll
and don't they charge you to take pictures with the alligators and shit,
and you're gonna pay like $15-20 to take a picture. And I'm like, but why? I'm like, you can, I'm like, literally almost anyone, like within reason, like if you hit me up and like you want to hang out with a retic, like let me know what your schedule is. You can come by the house. I'll fucking put my big female around your neck or over your shoulders and show you how to order, so that, like, and explain everything. And not only that, but exactly. Like I'll give you an experience. I will educate you on these animals and the whole nine. And coming back to that. So during the Arlington show on Sunday, we had all these plans. We're supposed to go live with all these people. We're supposed to do all these things. Dude, I spent like 4.5 hours at the Arlington show on Sunday, and it was not planned. Blake Stewart was over talking to one of the retic vendors and finds this. Damn it, I don't want to fuck up the genetics. It was a super something. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It was a 4-year-old male retic, and he was beautiful. He was like a super sunfire. Something. I don't want to quote the genetics wrong, because I'm not. As much as I keep these retics, I don't actually know what
male retic.
It was a fairly powerhouse male. He was for sale. He was like $4,000.
Okay.
But he's like probably about 9 foot or so, maybe a little shy. Anyways, they're like, Blake, if you want to like just walk around with him, they're like, he's a puppy dog. Now, this snake was also, by the way, was returned to this vendor about 6 months prior, because the person that bought him said, oh, he's mean, he's unpredictable, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm just going to tell you, there's video of it. Anybody that got video from Arlington on Sunday probably has seen it, because I was all over the show. Dude, I could grab this male by the head. Actually, Earl from Lone Star Reptiles, while I was holding that male, grabbed him by the head and put that male's head in his mouth.
Jesus.
Like that male gave no fucks about anything. You could grab his tail and squeeze it. I mean, I'm talking the tip of his tail.
Yeah.
And the reason I know this stuff is because I was carrying him around at a show. Yeah. And obviously there's kids and people and everything else walking up like, oh, can we touch him? So obviously I want to do kind of all these tests like prior to doing that. But dude, I'm not lying. I spent like 4.5 hours at that show walking around with a retic that I didn't even own, that was between 8 and 9.5 feet, and letting small children hold this thing.
Damn.
This is a snake I spent a good, and not to be reckless. Like, I want people to understand, yes, I didn't spend a very long period of time with this animal, but I went through all the fucking ringers of like triggers that could have pissed him off. And I was very mindful of obviously everything that needed to be mindful of. But dude, I'm telling you, I probably let 40 people, including like, I'm talking like babies. Like, I had that snake over the shoulders of probably a 3 or 4 year old kid at one point, and that's
what it's all about, man. If the animal has a good disposition, frick yeah.
Dude, they were all giggling, laughing. I mean, there was a lady that walked up, like her boyfriend kind of thought he wanted to pet it, and they spent a good 10 minutes.
Kind of thought he wanted to pet it.
That's all. Right, exactly. That's how it started. Like, he wanted to pet it a little bit, and then he held it, and she was freaked the fuck out. I mean, I'm saying terrified. Like, wanted like nothing to it.
Like, she's 10 feet away. Hell no.
Yeah, exactly. But she was there. And that's the other thing. I respect her for even showing up at the show. That's a big deal. Because they always have some interest. But anyways, dude, within a couple minutes of him petting it, he was like, "Okay, well, I'll hold it." I was like, "All right, yeah." I was like, "Hold it." And the same thing. I'm doing what I can to sell it in the sense of like, I'm like, "Hey, listen, watch this." Grab him by the head. I'm petting him on the head. I'm kissing him on the face. Like, dude, look, like this snake is gonna be fine. I'm like, I'm gonna keep his head over here, but I also want you to be aware that like I can totally do this and like, you know, kiss him and hold him and rub on his head. Like he's gonna be okay. So there's not gonna be any freak accident. And they're like, okay, cool, awesome. That you can literally watch people's shoulders just drop and relax.
Yep.
So the guy holds the snake and he's like, oh my God. And my favorite question to ask people once they were holding him, I go, can you feel him breathing? And you hear them go silent. They completely go silent and they almost kind of close their eyes, like really focusing. Yeah. And they're like, holy shit, I can feel him breathing. I said, how cool is that? I'm like, how cool is it that you've got a snake, which is a scary concept. I'm like, but you're holding this animal where you can literally like share that experience. Like you can feel them existing. You can feel them living through their breath.
Hell yeah.
Wrapped around your body. I'm like, that's fucking cool, right?
And I bet you that girlfriend came around, whether at the show or not.
Within a second, within a half a second, she goes, all right, you know what? I need to hold him. I need to hold him. He seems so sweet. So so I was like, okay, cool. I was like, are you ready? You know, I mean, she's like, yes, but she was giddy at that point. Yeah. She holds him. Dude, I had to like take the snake back from her. She's like, he loves me. Like, this is amazing. Like, I have goosebumps right now even telling you this story because it's like it shouldn't have gone down that way. There's no logical line that should be drawn between this person that came in terrified of snakes to this. And again, like you're talking about like 100-pound female. Yeah. Woman. She was like ready to walk home with him at the end and didn't want to give him back. She wanted all kinds of pictures.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, man. That's freaking awesome.
It really, really is. So to the people that are, you know, like down on like big snakes, like I get it, but there's a size of snake, an impressive size of snake that, man, I stayed busy. And literally that was not my intention when I held that snake. When Blake handed me that snake, I was just like, cool, like this is amazing. I love to interact with a snake any chance I get. And so walking around that show, I very quickly realized how fun that was. And dude, any show that I go to, I'm telling you from here going forward, like, if any vendor that I know that's got big snakes, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna roll up to them and just be like, hey, listen, if you got something that I can hold and carry around that you think you'll trust or whatever, like let me have it because I'll go fucking nuts.
Hell yeah. No, dude, I love it.
And he was for sale the whole time.
Man.
Yeah, he was for sale the whole time and ultimately ended up being sold. Somebody that Blake and I actually talked to later ended up going back to their table and buying him.
Damn.
4-year-old, fully grown, mainland retic. But
yeah.
So again, man, those are the stories I live for. This hobby is it's just good. It just is.
Man.
So for like to your point of earlier about like, man, Zach's just always so happy and positive and blah blah. Like, dude, it would be hard for me not to be. In regards to any of the stuff that we do day to day. I think anybody that's negative or down in the mouth about it, they need to shake themselves and wake up a little bit, or just give me a call.
100%, man, 100%. Hey, so I do have one last wrap up question for you, but I'd also like to just throw it out in the chat. If you guys have any last minute questions, while I'm asking Zach this, please throw them out there. I'm sure Zach wouldn't mind going a little bit extra and answering some more questions. So,
not at all.
But I'm curious, what is your best show memory? What's your best, like, you know what? Actually, I kind of want to broaden this a little bit.
Okay.
If there was one memory you've had in person with somebody in the industry that just stands out as like just memorable and really meant something to you, what was that time? Man,
that's really hard. Because I've talked about a lot of them. My memories with Garrett obviously come to mind. Like that moment of literally standing in the driveway of this person who inspired me to get into this certain species, right? This certain locality or whatever, and having like sharing a hug with that person, like that was huge.
Yeah.
And
can't even imagine, like, honestly.
Dude, I'm telling you, like that's probably one of them. That's it. Like that's definitely it. It's between that or the first time that I got to speak to Justin Kabilka on the phone.
Okay.
I think that's a really big one too, just because and those were a couple years apart. I got to speak to Justin Kabilka on the phone like much earlier on, even though I had already had the retics. I didn't get to meet Garrett after buying those retics for a few years. So I got into Ultramel and then ended up obviously buying my Ultramel, most of my Ultramel stuff from Kabilka early on. So like I ended up on the phone with Kabilka. I don't even remember how it happened. It was just one of those things. Like I think I sent him a text and was just like, hey, like, do you have anything like in particular in the Ultramel project, like what's going on or whatever?
Yeah.
But ultimately ended up just standing in the driveway of my house that I lived in at the time, talking on the phone to Justin. And I just remember, man, like I ended that phone call and it was just like, I'm like, what? Because again, like Justin's no different than anyone else. He's just a person, man. Like I would encourage anybody that's putting him on a pedestal, maybe to not to, but not in a negative way. Like just understand that he's accessible. Like understand that like if you want to talk to him, you can. But going back to what I said before, like I would encourage anybody, don't reach out unless you're actually ready to spend some money. If you're ready to buy an animal, like if you got $2,000 in your pocket and there's something that you're trying to, like a project that you're currently working and you need to spend that $2,000 on an animal, absolutely reach out to Justin. Because what I'll say,
100%,
he probably spent 20, 30 minutes on the phone with me talking about X, Y, and Z. And at the end of the day, that phone call, I spent $2,500 with them that night, and so that's the thing is like, obviously I had known about Justin for longer, like way prior, obviously, to me being on the phone with him, but it meant a great deal that he was willing to make the time when, honestly, like at the start of that phone call, like I knew I was going to spend some money. I think I'd reached out to him about one animal in particular. Is what it was. And I ended up buying two. So it went from like, okay, I'm going to spend like $1,000 to, it turned into $2,500 because I wanted to just chit chat with him about some particular genetics and kind of why it would be worthwhile to spend the money on this animal versus that animal. And that's also why that clutch I talked about earlier, that fire yellow belly spot nose het Ultramel female means so much to me because that is the female that I bought on that phone conversation. Was that the extra girl? Just out of curiosity. It was the extra girl. Yeah. Because the animal that I actually reached out to buy was my breeder male, was my Mojave Ultramel male. Because I texted Justin. So you got the pair then, I said, hey man, I'm looking to get a good visual Ultramel male. Yeah. Like, do you have anything for sale? And he sold me his current breeder male.
Damn.
Which at the time, again, was like, even the fact that he was willing to do that was like, because you're talking about a male that wasn't available, like wasn't listed. Yeah. You're talking about a male that was good enough that Justin was like, this is the Mojave Ultramel that I want to breed.
Yeah.
Right. Because he's going to pick the best of the best. So you don't have to question the quality.
Yeah.
Quality. You don't have to question that visibly he's going to be stunning. Yeah. And dude, he's been a prolific breeder. Like he's that motherfucker will lock with anything. It's insane. Yeah. So that money was obviously well worth spending. So it just,
those are two really good memories, man.
I love everything about my story in this hobby, even if it's so mundane in a lot of ways. Like there are so many small moments for me to have gotten excited about. Yeah. And that's why I love to share it with other people, man, because it's just that way. Yeah. Lean into it as hard as you can. And I'm telling you, you'll be amazed at just the people that you'll get a chance to meet, the relationships that you're going to build, the friendships. It's just everything about it. It's just fun, dude. It's again. Oh yeah. People say you said like, oh, Zach's just always so happy and positive, man. Like I said, how can I possibly not be? Especially if you lean on the people that are in this hobby.
I love that outlook, man. And I knew that was going to be a hard question. That's why I wanted to save it for last because, I'm just curious. So
that's awesome. Great. I love it. I love open-ended stuff like that because you just never know where someone's going to take it.
Even though I know the answer to this, Josh is cool people. He's always here. He wants to know why you don't have any leopard geckos.
Actually, to be completely honest with you, this is a pretty simple one for me personally. I am same reason I didn't breed bearded dragons. You can have so many of them so fast. Yeah. And so for me, it's just not a market that I necessarily want to jump into because I'm like, the market doesn't need me. The market is definitely taking care of itself. It's not that I don't love those animals. And that's another one of those animals where, again, like when I have the time and the money, like dude, I don't give a fuck how much money I make in this. I would love to have one leopard gecko as a pet. I absolutely would. It's just not what I'm dedicated to right now. And so same thing. I told you guys I bought that male bearded dragon. I sold him. To a local breeder. The reason was because I said, listen, I can definitely continue to take care of him. And I love him. I did. I loved what he gave me. But I recognized very early on, like anything that I need to dedicate time to that is not going to pay me back, I have to be very mindful of. Because this is money and time that I can be dedicating to. Yes, and you know, and there's going to be people that will criticize for that, you know, and that's okay. That's absolutely fine. Because my girlfriend at the time was that way. She's exactly. We don't have to make money off of everything we keep. I said, I know that. I understand that. I said, with the shoestring budget that we're operating on, why should I keep something that's costing me money if I can sell it, move on to something else that I can operate on the same shoestring budget, and this will eventually one day pay me some money back. I'm much less stressed about it. It's not that I'm happier. It's just that I'm not as worried. I'm not as concerned. I'm not putting as much pressure mentally on myself because I'm thinking, okay, this Mojave leopard Krypton het ultramel female that I spent almost $3,000 on. I was happy to do it. Because I'm happy every time she eats. It makes me smile every time I open her enclosure because, first of all, she's amazing, and I get excited even mentioning that I have her. Other people get excited that I have that animal. Like it's you know what I mean? And she could easily be a normal for someone, but for me, she's what I get excited about. So it's different strokes, man.
I feel it, and you know, people also have to think about. And this isn't directed toward Josh's question, but more towards your answer, I guess I should say. But they don't think about everybody's operating on a different budget for one. And that's not, you know, good or bad in any which way.
No, there's a project for everyone.
But everybody has to be, you know, focused to a degree. And that's one thing I actually really admire too. You know, like I said, I love what you're doing, but that's part of the reason is that you stayed focused and within your budget and within your realm, but still managed to, one, have some fire ass animals, if I do say so.
Thank you.
I mean, like, I see a lot of animals, man, and honestly, I've seen a lot of big collections, and I love your collection. And that says a lot, considering
it does say
a lot of the collections I see and talk to are, 100, 200 plus animals. So I love it, man. You see a lot of people who they jump in and they overbuy, or they buy a lot of stuff they don't need. And trust me, I'm guilty of it. I won't say I bought stuff I couldn't have. It was that I didn't need it, but didn't. It's not that I couldn't afford them. I made that mistake of it was more the workload that got to me, right? I was okay, I can't handle this many. I'm going to downsize a little bit, Yeah,
you have to be careful about that, especially with working projects. If you want to buy stuff to breed, dude, you got to be careful. Yeah, you buy 2 animals, and you got to think about, okay, how many babies are they going to have? How many babies do I need to hold back from this pairing? If they have X, Y, Z, you have to think about the worst case scenario.
Exactly. Everything involved. But, it's funny Josh asked that because he asked me the same question, when we first met and started talking. And I was like, you know what? I've always liked leopard geckos. They're just not my thing. I would never breed them. But I was like, when you produce, he's going to probably bust my balls in the chat right now. I want to say they're called eclipses. It's like a jet black leopard gecko. I was like, when you produce those,
there's eclipses and there's something else that is a totally, because eclipse I think is a different genetic, but there is something that's black, and I'm trying to remember. But the thing is about the leopard geckos,
no, it's not black knight.
It's not, but it's something along those lines. The thing about those super dark, because Barczyk talked about this, and I didn't, and I looked into it further.
Okay,
he was saying that those hyper melanistic leopard geckos, at least as currently. They're not consistent, and they're super expensive. So he's like, I can't justify spending 10 grand on a pair of these ultra melanistic leopard geckos when the babies might not actually be as dark. I can't remember what they're called, but I'm Black Knight. There it is. I was gonna say, I definitely said something about
the Black Knight.
That's what. Yeah, Game Works. He just said, Black Knight. I was gonna say it sounds okay. That sounds right. And they're from what I understand, it's not consistent genetically. So you're gonna get some that are black as that, but I think that's something that's gonna probably be able to build, right? They're gonna build on that project to make sure that eventually all of the babies are gonna be that dark. Yeah. And dude, and that's what I say exactly.
Okay, they do have issues.
I've been hearing that they have issues. So
All right, so I'll wait until Josh figures that out for me.
But I love that you brought that up because, dude, I've had the same feeling. I was like, if there's anything I'm getting into for leopard geckos, it's these fucking things. Yeah. And then I started looking into it, and then I heard Brian talk about it on his podcast, and I was like,
that's good to know. I never knew that. I just saw them, and there's a few animals I've seen where I'm like, I will have that animal one day. Yes. Now is just not the correct timing.
I like a lot of the hypermelanistic stuff. All of those just like jet black animals that aren't supposed to be jet black, I get a kick out of. I think they're super interesting. I think blackhead and ball pythons is a direction where, like, hey, if you're just now getting into ball pythons, for anybody that's listening that's still here a couple hours in, like, get into the blackhead project. If you can buy a super blackhead, I don't give a fuck what the price is, buy it. There's also some that have been very underpriced. Tom Harbin was selling 2 female super blackheads at the Arlington show that didn't sell from what I saw. I think they were only like $600 or $700. And the only reason I think they didn't sell was because both of them were labeled as either yellow belly or gravel. And so a lot of people are like put off by that kind of labeling, but it's like, dude, he could have.
Wait, what were they? Blackhead, yellow belly / gravel?
They were super, from what I recall, they were both super blackheads. So they were very dark. They're super blackhead females.
Who was this? They're sold. Who was this?
Tom Harbin.
Okay, well, they're sold now if they aren't already.
I was going to say, if they're not, then reach out to him and let him know, like, hey, I heard you have some super blackheads.
I love the blackhead, man. Honestly, it wasn't even my thing. It was the girlfriend's project. You know, I think we've talked about this before. Some of the projects are my girlfriend's, you know.
Yeah.
But it's a group effort here. But I wasn't even interested till I hatched them. And the second I saw them after a fresh shed out of the egg, I was like, holy shit. Okay, I see this potential.
My whole thing early on was I'm like, okay, well, like, we've got blackhead, we've got black pastel, we've got cinnamon. Like, there's a lot of these darkening genes. Yeah. Right? But from very early on, I recognized that, like, blackhead was the darkest, was the richest color.
It's definitely different
out of all of those. And so, I mean, I've been sold on it for a long time. And the fact that I early on didn't invest in buying one of those animals, I don't really even have an answer as to why. It was just one of those. I just bought other stuff.
It was the same thing, dude. I slept on it for a while, and then finally I got my hands on my male, and one thing after another. Now I'm like, shit, okay, I need to make more. Speaking of which, he's paired right now, so I'll have to check if he's locked after this stream.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, because like Justin now has made like blackhead leopard ultramels and crazy stuff, and I'm like, see, I was right. I knew it. You know, it's like every stock you didn't buy when you knew you should have bought, and it tripled over whatever.
Exactly. That's how I felt about puzzle.
yeah. Every investment, man. Every investment. So it happens, but I think the long and short of everything we're talking about is just like, if you love something, just fucking, first of all, think about it long and hard, maybe for a day. And then fucking spend the money. Just spend the money.
Just do it.
As long as you're not going to go broke. Like, if you can afford it, just buy it. Just buy it. If you're excited about it, you're not alone.
Exactly. Dude, so that turned in, my one question turned into 3. But sorry about that.
Dude, don't apologize. Don't ever fucking apologize. Every bit of what we just talked about was great information. And for anybody that stays this long into watching this after the fact, or has been here this long now and is still watching live, I think they'll appreciate it. And if they don't, well, then I'm sorry.
Well, then why were they watching this long? Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So, Eric, it was the one last question that popped up in the chat. Is it possible to see the, I believe he's talking about the Het Krypton, Het Ultramel?
Yeah. Absolutely. She's actually ready to be fed.
Forgot the other genes involved there, but yeah.
So all right, so she is a leopard Mojave, Krypton, Het Ultramel.
Jeez, I love that side pattern.
Yeah, I mean she's just crazy looking.
That's whacked out. I love it, and solid.
Yeah. And I mean, she's been a great eater.
Can you show the top of her head right there a little more?
Yep.
Oh my God, I love that little blocky patch right on the back of the head on the top of the dorsal there.
Dude, I'm
glad you asked that, Eric.
Yeah. This snake has so much personality and is just so interesting. I mean, this is currently my favorite animal in my collection.
Damn. I was gonna say I'm pretty sure I like all of your stuff that comes across my feed, and I've never seen that. At least not that I can
think I've
recall.
only posted about her on Instagram one time, and I actually again, this was another one that was on my list today of things to do. Was
well, dang, bro,
literally
poster.
just like was just to remind people of my you know, kind of what I had going on. Give me 2 seconds. I'll show you the mail that's supposed to go to her.
Yeah.
Just to kind of reiterate some things that we talked about early on. So, because he's doing so good, he's gotten so big so fast.
That's awesome, Tom, and I know it was my pleasure, and I'm sure it was Zach's as well.
Oh, dude, absolutely. Yeah. So this is just a wonderful example of a pastel clown. And again, he's 100% het ultra male. He came from Marshall Mendez, and
hell yeah,
you guys can kind of see, hold him against my body. He's up to probably 450 grams now. He was 400 grams when I weighed him the other day, so he's gonna be fully ready to breed this year. So
producing plugs yet?
Not that I've seen, but like I said, he's
soon.
He's got to be.
He'll get there.
Yeah, he's got to be right there on the verge. And again, I'm not in a rush with anything I have. That's the other nice thing about having a small collection. You don't feel that pressure, right? Of just like, oh, I need these things to go, and I don't spread myself too thin financially, in terms of them, where I need them to pay for themselves. Like, you can do that. Like, if you're really that in a hurry to grow, you can definitely do that. But it's gonna be stressful, and there's just gonna be some things that don't work out. You're gonna have females that don't go. You're gonna have males that don't work out, or just whatever.
Yep. And you're gonna get in over your head with the cleaning and stuff if you're not freaking careful.
Yeah, and that's exactly
my mistakes.
Part. Just the work.
I'm telling you that.
Work. Yeah,
I know we've grown now, but that took a lot of work to get to where we're at now, and a lot of
because I've got I think 21 animals right now behind me. I have 12. I have 12 babies coming as long as all these eggs go. So you're talking about going from 21 to 33 overnight.
Yeah,
because both those clutches are due within 5 days of each other. So it's a lot of work, and it expands very rapidly, especially because it's like, okay, now I've got multiple females, where I'm like, oh shit, if you get 5, 6, 7 clutches a year, you're talking easy 30 babies a year that you now have to either keep back and find homes for, or both,
See, so it's like that, except for those 30 animals is one clutch for me half the time.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say for the berms,
or more.
Totally different deal. And that's where I'm at with that retic project. Yeah. Man. It's like, even, she's a smaller female, but you're still talking about a 10, 11 foot female. Yep. Like, you're still talking about, she's going to have to fucking easily lay 20 eggs. I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
So and all of them are going to be pos hats.
Yeah.
So it's like, how many can I hold back? Because I need to hold back as many as humanly possible.
Yep.
So it's
There's a few girls I'm like, I'm probably going to pair you once or twice in your life, and then we'll just be friends for the rest of your life.
Yeah, but beyond that, I don't need the problems. I don't need the stress of moving.
I think I'll max out at probably 3 berm pairings for a year. Because I mean, if you think if I get 3 berm pairings at 30 eggs a piece, which is actually like a small average for a good size berm, that's 90 babies right there. We just round it to 100. And then we're talking about 10 ball clutches, which could round to 100. That's 200 extra mouths to feed and take care of and feed for just a season. Yeah.
And then again, just the work to move them along, and just it's a lot, man. It's absolutely a lot, and that's obviously neither of us are complaining even remotely. I mean, we not at all. Are super passionate about every single piece of this, including the part of just like having to get rid of babies and the whole thing. Like I love it all from start to finish. I love it.
Honestly, that's the part I like the least, is because I know it brings me money, and I bring joy to people, but then I also have to post stuff where I'm like, I wish I had a way bigger room, because I would just keep you all and stare at you forever. Yep. 100%, man. Hey, dude, thank you so much for your time, dude. We're going on 2.5 hours. My lights are about to shut off above us. Yep. Just to wrap it up, is there anything you want to say to everybody out there and tell them where to find you? I'm going to add your link tree as soon as we're done here. I will add the link tree down there.
So genuinely, no. Just my biggest thing to always say to just anyone is that thank you guys for your time. I don't toot my own horn a lot, and I don't really promote myself a ton. And so I'm always just appreciative of literally anyone at all that tunes in for any of these things, anybody that reaches out, anybody that tells me like, thank you, or just whatever. Like it's always surreal to me, because it's not going to matter how long I'm in this or how big I get or whatever. Like I'm always just going to feel like nobody, and I'm just going to feel like just another person. So just thank you guys. That's really what it comes down to, man. So, and thank you for allowing me to use your platform tonight. I hope that there's some people tonight that may have seen me for the first time, that appreciate maybe my message and the way that I do things, and beyond that, man, that's it. So
hell yeah, man. Thank you again so much.
And
so humble. I love it, man. I love it. All right, we'll catch up in just a second.
I love all you guys. All right, buddy.
Later, man. Oh, man. I knew I was going to love this freaking show. Me and Zach have been talking for quite a while, and he's just, you guys saw, just so humble, such a good guy. So really wanted to bring that to all your guys' attention if you guys didn't already know him. Also, do your boy a favor, please. Go down below, smash that like button for me, or the thumbs down if you really didn't like it. Either way, I don't really care. It just lets me know how you guys are liking this content. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and if you guys want to check out all of our other social media and merch, go over to thesnakenerd.com. And until next time, guys, peace.